Well, good afternoon, everybody. You're listening to The Drive at 3:07 on this, the first day of March. And I'm not a forego the lion lamb thing. We've decided we're not really sure what that means. You can listen to The Drive on the air. You can watch us on SuperTalk TV, on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We are glad to have you along for the ride. I want to start out today. I've been thinking deeply, and that hurts a little bit for me. But I've been out there really, trying to think about life in general and where we are in the world, the large stage. And I got to tell you, I find myself increasingly worried about where we are as a nation on the world stage. I mean, we live, let's admit it, in dangerous times. We're fighting a proxy war with Russia and Ukraine at a time when some intelligence reports suggest that Vladimir Putin is ill and increasingly unstable. We just sent 300 military advisors to Taiwan, an island nation that China claims as its own. And, of course, we've vowed to defend Taiwan should the Chinese invade. China and Russia are conducting joint military exercises. That's right, our two great nuclear adversaries in the world are now working hand in hand. Iran, I'll get into it a little bit later in greater detail, but according to recent reports, is only days away from being able to have what it needs to construct a nuclear weapon, bringing instability again to the Mideast, one of the world's historic flashpoints. North Korea, increasingly emboldened by what is an unstable leader perceives to be weak American leadership, has developed long-range intercontinental missiles and has recently threatened South Korea. We would, of course, be obliged to defend South Korea against any incursion from the North. And not to make too fine a point on it, but it is highly likely, I believe, that terrorists have infiltrated our country through our porous southern border. We don't know how many. We don't know where they are. We have no idea what they might be plotting. And it's against that worrisome backdrop that we have a president who, as the entire world can see, is in cognitive decline. A man who bumbles and stumbles and mumbles his way through public events. With each misstep, our enemies on the world stage become so increasingly aware that American leadership is weak. I mean, would you have any great respect or fear of a man who speaks in public appearances like this?
You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female.
I defy anybody, anywhere, to give me a transcript of what he just said.
You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female. You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female. You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female.
Something about angels in heaven, and I don't know.
I think what he said was, you docs are good, but if there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses. Or something like that.
I have, maybe that's it, but I mean, can you be sure?
Took me like 10 times.
You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female.
Well, I listen. I listen to it a lot, and I think we should just put that on a loop and play it all day long. This is the leader of the free world, and you can't understand him. And he says creepy things.
When I was at Walter Reed all that time, after a couple craniotomies, I was lying there, and I had a nurse named Pearl Nelson, military. She'd come in and do things that I don't think you learn in medical school, nursing school. She'd whisper in my ear. I couldn't understand her. She'd whisper, she'd lean down. She'd actually breathe on me to make sure that there was a connection, a human connection. She even went home and brought back her pillow from her own bed because she didn't knew the one I had the one comfortable. But I'm not joking.
Yeah, of course he's not joking. This is a man who constantly displays presidential weakness.
Think about it. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it. I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation.
With the whole, excuse me. All men and women created by you know the thing. Docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female.
Okay. Doesn't inspire confidence, does it? When you talk about all the things that are going on in the world, when you talk about, adversaries on the world stage who are looking at us as increasingly weak at a time when we're provoking them, and there are so many flashpoints around the world right now. The South China Sea, Ukraine, the Mideast, many, many things going on, and we got a guy who can't put a sentence together. By the way, when he was talking to these doctors and nurses yesterday, he reminded the entire world that he's had 2 brain surgeries. I mean, I knew this. Did you know this?
When I was at Walter Reed all that time, after a couple of craniotomies, I was lying there.
After a couple of craniotomies. That's basically, okay, we've opened up your head a couple of times. And sadly, we have a woman who is just one heartbeat away from becoming the commander-in-chief, who is not at all capable or prepared to lead this nation in the tense times that we live right now. Did I share this with you yesterday, the other day? This just gets me. Love this. Deep Thoughts by Kamala Harris.
Think of it then in the context of, like, I like to think about a lot of things in the context of a Venn diagram. I love Venn diagrams. Is there a Venn diagram for this? I'm telling you, it's fascinating when you do. Remember Venn diagrams, those 3 circles? And then let's just see where they overlap. You will not be surprised because I have constructed a Venn diagram on this. Remember those 3 circles, how they overlap? I love Venn diagrams, so I just do. Whenever you're dealing with conflict, pull out a Venn diagram, right? And so, the 3 circles. And so I asked my team, right? They're fantastic. He sees the Venn diagram of it all. He sees that there are those circles, and maybe people seem that they're a little different. They live in different parts of the country. They may be different age or different race. But that area in the middle, that overlap. And I asked my team to do a Venn diagram of where these attacks are happening. I asked my team to do a Venn diagram for me of where we are seeing attacks and who are the attacks against and the similarity. And when you look at a diagram of just a Venn diagram in that regard, it tells a real tale.
I mean, do you have confidence in a woman who needs complex issues of the day broken down into a 3-circle diagram so she can absorb the information? It is so concerning that this is what we have on the world stage right now. A president who is weak and a vice president not prepared to take the job should he fumble or stumble. It makes me very, very worried. It makes you stay up at night thinking about what would we do. As I mentioned a little earlier, one of the new developments on the world stage is that there is an assessment that Iran can make fissile material for a bomb in about 12 days. And this is an unnamed U.S. official who I'm reading from the Jerusalem Post. Of course, they have more than a passing interest in this. While U.S. officials say Iran has grown closer to producing fissile material, they do not believe it has mastered the technology to actually build a bomb. But Iran could make enough fissile for 1 nuclear bomb in about 12 days, a top U.S. Defense Department official said Tuesday, down from the estimated 1 year it would have taken while the 2015 Iran nuclear deal was in effect. This is scary. This is very scary. The Biden administration said to be, quote unquote, very, very worried by Iran's progress. It's worrisome, said Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, who leads the U.S. mission to the United Nations. And I know that they're looking at how we respond. Well, the whole world is looking at America right now, trying to figure out how it will respond. And if I were a world leader who did not have the United States' best interest at heart, if I was a President Xi, if I was a Vladimir Putin, if I was a Ayatollah Khamenei, looking at the United States right now, at a man who can't even put together a sentence. I wonder exactly how much confidence I would have, how fearsome I would be of the great United States. It scares me. It should scare you. Yeah, because these are dangerous times we live in. And I'm not sure at all that we as a country are prepared for. I don't want to scare people. I don't want people to, to say that I'm being a fearmonger. But you know what? It's better to think about these things. But what would be the solution? Do you have confidence that when the phone rings in the president's bedroom at 2:00 in the morning because there is a crisis that needs managing, you don't have all your staff around. They're still trying to find and wake up people who need to be, but you've got to have a quick decision by the leader of the free world.
Your docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female.
Be afraid. Be very afraid. And, we are going to actually have this man right here.
Your docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female.
By all accounts, is about to announce he's going to run for another term in office. Can America allow that to happen? I don't understand why Jill Biden is letting this happen. I don't understand why. Somebody has not called and said to Joe, this is no, Joe, this you can't do this. Thank you for your service. We salute you, sir, but you can't do this. I still hold out hope that at some point Joe Biden will wake up and come to the realization that he's not up to the task. But so far, he seems not to have figured that out. 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. All right, it's that time of year where you need to do a little work around the house. Take a look at it. Is it time to do a little painting? Well, you could paint, but it wouldn't last very long. It'd be just a little while before you need to paint again, because that's what paint does. It cracks, it chips, it peels. But if you called the folks at Rhino Shield of Nashville, you wouldn't have to think about painting your house for another 25 years. Full quarter century. You see, Rhino Shield is not paint. It's 10 times thicker than paint. It's infused with special 3M ingredients, millions of microspheres that allow the coating to expand and contract. And that's why they offer a 25-year warranty against cracking, chipping, and peeling. Clay Morris and the folks at Rhino Shield of Nashville have a great reputation. They deeply care about the work that they're doing. Don't take my word for it. Listen to Amanda. My home turned out beautifully. They showed up on time. The crew was professional and courteous. I had some custom painting that needed to be done, and they did an amazing job. Sound like something you'd be interested in? We'll give Clay Morris a call. It's 615-474-1729. Learn more at rhinoshieldnashville.com.
The rail safety bill. This comes after the toxic train derailment in Ohio, and insulin going to be able to be purchased at a much cheaper price, and some news concerning the star point guard for the Memphis Grizzlies. That and more 3:30 right here, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yes, it is. It's a woke world after all. Bye, everybody. Well, it is a woke world. There's no doubt about it. Oh, they're not done yet. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Make it stop. Oh, thank you.
It is a woke world. And, there's a lot of stuff that we need to stay up on each and every day. In the state of Tennessee, we have already passed a ban on what they call, and I don't know, I don't like this term, gender-affirming care for minors. Basically what this is we had hospitals, Vanderbilt Hospital for one, that were actually performing surgeries on young people who were not even 18 years old to change their gender. And they had a whole program where they were there to help people who decided they wanted to change their gender, even before they were of the age of an adult, 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds making these decisions. And the new law, which, as I understand it, sits on the governor's desk, and there is every indication the governor will sign it, is going to say, okay, if you want to make a decision like that, you're going to have to wait at least until you're 18 years old. I think this is a good idea. And if you really take any emotion you have out of it and just read the research and look at the most recent studies, they've already come to this conclusion in Europe. And for some reason, we seem to be thinking it's still a good idea. Well, it won't be happening in the state of Tennessee if the governor signs this bill as we expect that he will. This is happening in other places as well. Here's the latest one from the Epoch Times. Mississippi bans gender-affirming care for minors. Become the latest state to ban health care professionals providing gender-affirming care for transgender youth on what officials say will stop the attempt to push a sick and twisted ideology. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves signed the GOP-led House bill known as the Regulate Experimental Adolescent Procedures Act into law on February 28th. That was yesterday. Under the legislation, which is effective immediately, individuals in the state are banned from knowingly engaging in conduct that aids or abets the performance or inducement of gender transition procedures for Mississippians under the age of 18. Wow, that's good. I'm glad to see that. So this is a trend that is going on around the country. Here we go. The signing of the bill makes Mississippi the latest state to enact a ban. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem also signed one called Help Not Harm Bill. Similar bans have been passed in Alabama, Arizona, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, and of course, it's been passed but not signed into law by the governor yet in the state of Tennessee, Nebraska, Oklahoma, also considering similar bills in the days ahead. Other woke news, Wall Street's largest asset managers, private equity firms, and brokers have warned that a backlash against sustainable investment is now a material risk in filings that show how acrimony over ESG principles has become a perceived threat to profits. In other words, they have all the ESG. Has to do with equitable social governance in the corporate world. It's the corporate world's version of CRT. It's the corporate world version of DEI. And now, apparently, some large asset members have said, if you have corporations that adopt these ESG principles, then they may actually lose money in the years ahead, and it could be a real threat to profits because there'll be a lot of people who are going to make the decision not to invest with companies that adhere to these ESG principles. And some of them are big investors. People like, states. States are now making the decision. Many states who are run by conservatives are now saying, we're not going to invest our pension money in this particular fund or with this particular company because we don't like your ESG policies. So, while you got people out there trying to change the corporate world and make it all woke, it's that a lot of people are waking up and saying, I don't care to invest in a company that looks at things other than bottom line. That's what I want to know. I don't want to care about how woke a company is. I want to know what its bottom line is. I want to know if it's a good investment or not, and that's the only thing I care about. If you're among those people, well, then you don't want to look at some of these firms that make their decisions based on ESG policies. It's now 30 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
.30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories, weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. We are monitoring possible severe weather coming in later tonight, probably around 7 to 10 here if you're in the Nashville area. More so 6 to 9 if you're in Waverly, Clarksville, and then East Tennessee. Going to be a late night storm, a level 2 out of 5 as far as severity is concerned. We'll keep you updated with that right here on Super Talk. Again, weather traffic coming up just a few minutes. Currently 76 degrees and cloudy. Rail safety bill. The White House is praising the legislative response to last month's toxic freight train derailment in Ohio. At today's White House briefing, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said they've been glad to see the effort, which would impose tougher rules for freight transportation, get bipartisan support.
The bill would increase the maximum fines for safety violations. It would strengthen rules governing trains carrying hazardous materials. It will accelerate the timeline for phasing in safer tank cars and establish a permanent requirement for two-person train cars.
A pharmaceutical giant is going to cut the price of its most commonly prescribed insulin products by 70% and expand a program that caps patient costs at $35 a month, the company said today. Here's Karen Travers with the reaction from President Biden.
President Biden, in a statement, calls the Eli Lilly announcement a, quote, big deal, saying that for far too long, quote, American families have been crushed by drug costs many times higher than what people in other countries are charged for the same prescriptions. Noting that insulin costs less than $10 to make, but that Americans sometimes paid more than $300 for it, the president calls that, quote, flat wrong. Mr. Biden takes some credit for Eli Lilly's move, saying he called on pharma companies to lower the price for the drug after signing the Inflation Reduction Act into law, which lowered the cost of insulin for seniors.
And some news in sports. Memphis Grizzlies star point guard John Morant has been accused of punching a 17-year-old multiple times and flashing a gun at him. This teen claims Morant punched him 12 to 13 times during a pickup basketball game at Morant's house last summer. The report says that Morant went inside of his house and then came back with that firearm. A two-time All-Star, Morant is in his fourth season with the Grizzlies, the team right now in second place in the Western Conference with a 37-23 record. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
When's the last time you went to a Legend Steakhouse? Well, if you haven't been in a while, man, this would be a good time to go. Get a good old Johnny Fleeman steak. Oh, they're so good. They're so tasty. But you might want to also think about them for lunch. Think about this. When it comes to lunch, they have a meat and two offering. One meat and things like fried pork chops, smoky mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow-cooked pot roast gravy. And then they have two, you get a meat and two, so you can choose between 14 vegetables in casseroles, broccoli casserole, turnip greens, bourbon glazed apples, fried green tomatoes. How about a potato casserole, black-eyed peas? I mean, a lot of things to choose from. It's a home-cooked meal. That's right. These are recipes that Johnny borrowed from his mother over 30 years ago, and he just never gave the recipe book back. Legend Steakhouse has multiple locations across Middle Tennessee, good food at a fair price. If you're in Davidson County, check out their Smyrna location just off Elmaville Road. Open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. You're going to love your next visit to Legend Steakhouse. Go to legendsteakhouse.com for locations and details.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
"38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair on the air. And if you ever said, well, I have an idea what that guy looks like, but I don't know for sure. Well, you can now find out. All your questions can be answered. You can find out what I look like, what Chris looks like, what Mac Borey looks like.
Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're going to be. I'm sorry, guys. It's the best we can do. By going to SuperTalk TV, just go to our Facebook pages, our 99.7 Facebook page, our 99.7 Twitter page, our 99.7 YouTube page, and apparently we even have a 99.7 Twitch page. I don't know that I even know what that is, but apparently we have one.
Yes, we do.
That's right. And as always, I would encourage you to go and look at the show prep if you have a question about where we get the information for what we talk about here. All of my show prep can be found at yourfarb.com. That's URFARB.com. And you can find the link to Your Farb at 997WTN.com. And as always, if you just want to fire off a quick something, be nice. Don't be ugly. Be nice. But you can go to our super text line at 615-737-9986. And we love hearing from you. We do. I mean, and actually, if you think I'm a bonehead, it's okay to say, Wilson, you're a bonehead. We had some of that yesterday.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. But, if you hadn't figured that out by now, I don't know what to tell you. Medical cannabis dies in a Senate committee in the Tennessee state legislature. That's right. If you had some hope of medical marijuana here in Tennessee, then you should be disabused of that notion. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. Senate Bill 1104, brought by Tullahoma Republican Janice Bowling, failed in the Senate Judiciary Committee Tuesday afternoon on nearly a party line vote. Both Democrats on the committee, Memphis Senators London Lamar and Sarah Kyle, joined one Republican, Springfield Senator Kerry Roberts, in the minority of the vote. Most other cannabis-related legislation has also failed or made little progress in the legislature this season. This is according to WKRN. Last week, the House Elections and Campaign Finance Committee failed a bill by Representative Jesse Chisholm that would add 3 non-binding public poll questions about cannabis to the general election ballot in 2024. That has gone down. Another version of a medical cannabis bill by Chisholm has not yet made it through committee. It was taken off notice in the House temporarily as of February 21st. And so the Senate bill has been assigned to the General Subcommittee of the Senate Judiciary. I mean, this happens all the time. We keep saying, maybe this year there will be medical marijuana. Maybe there'll be some movement toward that. And it seems like it just never gets the momentum. It dies somewhere along the pathway. Here's the one we told you about. Now, this one, I think, is a bad idea. Now, look, let me just say, I'm rather agnostic about marijuana. I don't care. I do care about certain things, about how if you are going to go down that path, as many states have, many conservative, I can't believe it, but many conservative states have gone down that path. And if you want to go down that path toward, doing something about marijuana, I say legalize it or do nothing. All or nothing. Because, what happens is it starts with medical cannabis. And I hear people, and I believe you, I absolutely do. I hear people who say all the time, you would not believe what, medical marijuana has done to help me through a very difficult situation. I have people in my own family who will tell me that. And they live in states where you can acquire it. But, I'm telling you, I hear this. And I go, well, it's hard to discount that. I'm certain that you're telling me the truth. And medical marijuana, I don't think it should be provided in what the leaf smoking form. I think it should be done. The THC should be in a pill, or there are other ways to deliver the so-called pain-killing and nausea issues that can be resolved with some forms of marijuana. I think all that can be done without, you making it available in leaf form. That's my opinion. And I think there's a lot of ways to go about that. But this bill bothers me. And it always has. Bill aimed at decriminalizing certain amounts of marijuana fails to pass. Well, I'm glad that it failed to pass, because this is a horrible idea. All or nothing. Because what happens here, if you decriminalize it, okay, so now you're telling everybody in Tennessee you can carry a small, if you make it decriminalized, you can say you can carry a small amount of marijuana, and it's going to be like if you get caught, it's going to be like a traffic ticket. It probably won't even write them, to be honest with you. And what happens is, okay, man, hot dog, man, now I got to get me some marijuana. I wanted to do that all along. Now I definitely going to do that. So I'm going to get me some marijuana. And you are encouraging the black market. You've decriminalized something, and then you've not provided a way that people can do it in other than going to the black market to acquire marijuana. So what happens is the black market becomes, more powerful. And then you get into I saw this in the state of Maryland when they did this. There were some areas where, people were dying because the marijuana folks who were selling were fighting among themselves over who had what territory, and people were dying. Made it much more dangerous. So I just sort of think if you're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, then okay. It's either all or nothing, but half measures don't work. Because it goes like this, medical marijuana, then we're going to decriminalize it, then we're going to just go ahead and legalize it and make it okay to smoke recreational marijuana. And so I'm saying, if one or the other, do it or don't do it, but don't go down the path of half measures. I'm telling you, I don't know why. For me personally, I'm just saying, I don't care what you do in the privacy of your own home. I don't want to be walking down the street watching people blazing away on a doobie. I just don't. I just don't want that to happen.
Did you say blazing away on a
blazing
doobie?
Away on a doobie, whatever. I don't know. But honestly, I don't. In some cities in America, I understand that you can't go anywhere without smelling the stench of marijuana. You can't go to anywhere without it being, in your face, pervasive.
I think I told this story once before. I found this very interesting a couple years ago when I went to Denver. First time I'd been to Colorado. I expected to see it and smell it everywhere, and I was very surprised that I didn't see it or smell it, I don't think, at all the whole time I was there. I smell it here almost daily in the car. Seriously.
Yeah, going down the road? Yeah. And
that's a whole nother thing, but anyway.
Yeah, there you go. I've heard that in Colorado, it became sort of societally impolite.
Maybe so, yeah, because it's been several years that they've
had it for a while, and I think the general sense, I had friends who lived and they said, no, the sense of it is, if you're going to do that, you do that at home, you don't take it out.
Yeah. And
people generally were following that rule in Colorado, but in other cities, it's not the way it is. I don't know. I've never understood this part of it. Now, I have never in my life partaken of marijuana at all, so I'll just lay that out there for you. I have never in my life had the desire, not even one time, to smoke a cigarette. It just like the idea of inhaling smoke into my lungs is just like, why in the hell would anybody do that? To me, it doesn't make one whit of sense. To me, it's just the stupidest thing a human being can do. And vaping, I feel the same way. Dumb. Why would you do that? I know I'm pissing off all kinds of people right now, but to me, that was my logic. And then I don't understand where everything in America, we say tobacco is bad. Tobacco will kill you. Tobacco causes cancer, but smoke all the marijuana you want, man. It's great. Now that doesn't make a whit of sense to me either. How many people are yelling at me on the text line right now? I would imagine a few.
That's a few.
All right, quickly. Other Tennessee news. The Tennessee Senate has passed a bill increasing the number of people who might be eligible for school voucher programs. Tennessee Senate approved a bill Monday night could expand eligibility for the state's educational savings account program to any student who attended public school in any of the 3 previous years. And a lot of people, I think, should be taking it. I think you should be taking it. If you got a kid right now in public school, and you're not, maybe you're one of those parents getting a note about your 3rd grader, got to have to take the 3rd grade over. Why would you keep going back to the public school if you had another way out? That's what I really can't understand. And there continues to be a couple of bills weaving their way through the House and the Senate of the state legislature that would expand open carry for basically any kind of gun. Firearm, they will say, not handgun. and the Department of Safety and Homeland Security doesn't seem to be in favor of it, but it looks like this is probably going to pass as well. We'll get an update. You know, there's so many different things, so many facets to the Second Amendment diamond every year. They always have a number of bills. We'll do a whole segment, and we'll set aside a whole segment, see where we are right now on these various pieces of legislation and what has a chance of passing and what doesn't have a chance of passing. Right now, 50 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Stop wasting money on concrete ceiling. Protect against cracks and pitting for a lot less money. Let's talk about your driveway, your deck. If you seal them each year, you can really run up a bill. I mean, for example, the cost of sealing your driveway over 10 years could be about $15,000, a lot of money. But many homeowners report paying the same for a superior seal that lasts a lifetime and is backed by a 25-year manufacturer warranty. Seal it once and forget it. In fact, it's really supposed to last somewhere between 30 and 50 years. I mean, that sounds good, doesn't it? If this sounds good to you, you need to investigate Everseal. Process starts by deep cleaning all the way through your wood or concrete. Bring it back, make it look as new as it possibly can. And then they use their patented seal to absorb all the way through to become a permanent part of your wood or concrete to prevent any further deterioration for the next 30 to 50 years. That's right. Listen, if this sounds like something you'd like to investigate, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't, why don't you give them a call? 1-844-EVER-USA. That's 1-844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com. That's ever-seal.com.
More info on the toxic train derailment in Ohio as the CEO of Norfolk Southern is going to testify before Congress next week. And some big news with the Georgia football star who was supposed to be drafted next month. That could be in jeopardy. That and more, 4 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 57 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Mac Maury in the newsroom, Chris Weber in the control room, and I am your friend and radio buddy. I'm your Farb. Here in the chair and on the air, bringing you all kinds of stuff. Let's take a look, if we could, at where we are with the markets today. The market's mixed. Dow Jones Industrial up 5 points. I mean, I think you would call it mostly flat. S&P's down 18. The NASDAQ is down about 76 points. So, I mean, all of these are rather anemic numbers, up or down. Oil right now is up 68 cents. A barrel of West Texas Intermediate crude would go for about $77.73. Gold is up today, $7.40. An ounce of gold, $1,844.10. All of this brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Learn more at beaconcm.com. Busy Bee, when you need heat or cold AC, you know the number, 775-7833. Got a problem, they'll call. Just call them at that number, and they'll buzz right over to your hive and get right away working on your problem. I mean, I've had a great relationship with the folks at Busy Bee. They do all my heating and cooling here at Stately Wilson Manor. They do my plumbing. They have done some great work for me. I'm very, very satisfied. Call who I would trust. If you find that you need to replace your HVAC or your plumbing, you're not going to find a better value anywhere, and you get 12 months, same as cash, with approved credit. You probably want to think about becoming a member of the Beehive Club. I am, and it really pays off. Heating and cooling season, you'll get a maintenance at each one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at your plumbing. No overtime charges 24/7, 10% off all repairs. So for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833. That's 615-775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now it's 76 degrees and about to be a little bit more cloudy as the day goes on. We're expecting some showers later on tonight in Nashville. For the upper portion of the mid-state, level 1 out of 5 for severity, level 2 out of 5 severity risk for the rest of the mid-state. Just looking at a timeline here, you can expect Waverly and Clarksville for the storm to get there around 6 to 9, and then you go Nashville, Columbia, Waynesboro. That storm will be here around 7 to 10 p.m. in the southern portion of the mid-state, looking at a flood watch south of Murfreesboro and McMinnville up here in Nashville, Murfreesboro, Cookeville area. No watches or warnings. Weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. The CEO of Norfolk Southern Railroad has agreed to testify before Congress next week on the toxic disaster in East Palestine, Ohio. Alan Shaw will appear March 9th before the Senate's Environment and Public Works Committee. Ann Flaherty brings us more information.
Southern CEO says Shaw is appearing voluntarily and promises to share what he knows about the February train derailment. Shaw will face angry lawmakers, particularly Democrats, who say the railroad industry hasn't done enough to stop these kinds of disasters from happening. Several lawmakers, including Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, are rallying behind a bipartisan bill that calls for stricter rules for trains carrying hazardous material.
Some sports news. Arrest warrants have been issued for potential top NFL draft pick Georgia football star Jalen Carter for reckless driving and street racing the night a university staffer and teammate were killed crashing into telephone poles. Carter released a statement saying, quote, "It's my intention to return to Athens to answer the misdemeanor charges against me and to make certain that the complete and accurate truth is presented," end quote. New York City and its police department have agreed to pay millions to settle claims filed by George Floyd protesters. Here's Aaron Katursky.
On June 4th, 2020, more than 300 protesters were arrested, detained, or subjected to what they called extreme brutality during a George Floyd demonstration in the Bronx. They called it a premeditated show of force against people who were demonstrating against police violence. The NYPD called it a challenging moment, balancing the right to peaceful expression with acts of lawlessness. Now the city and the NYPD agreed to pay each of the protesters more than $21,000, believed to be the highest per-person settlement award in a mass arrest class action lawsuit.
And a bill aimed at the popular social media app TikTok is headed to the House floor. Jay O'Brien.
The House Foreign Affairs Committee advancing a bill this morning that would give President Biden the authority to ban the popular social media app TikTok. Lawmakers saying the app is a threat to the United States, both because of data privacy and misinformation. Democrats warning this legislation is overly broad and guts laws that are meant to protect the free flow of things like movies, books, and artwork across international lines. The bill now goes to the House for a vote, but hasn't yet been scheduled to go to the floor.
And in Tennessee, there's now a catfish in Tennessee and Georgia that will now be federally protected. They're called Freckleberry Mad Toms, and they're small catfish with spots on their bellies. They're a little smaller than 4 inches, and they live near rocks and rivers. And there's now designated space in both states where they will be completely protected. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I stand behind no man in my desire to know all the latest catfish news.
Oh boy.
And I heard in that newscast something that I have never heard of before. I consider myself to be well versed in issues regarding catfish. McMorrie, what was that story about the freckled? What was it called?
The Freckleberry Mad Toms.
Freckleberry.
Now, are you sure it's not Freckle Belly?
Freckle Belly.
Okay.
Oh, not berry.
Gotcha.
I mean, I thought that was like Frankenberries, like a cereal.
Freckle Belly.
Because
they've got
freckled belly.
Because they got spots on their bellies, so Freckle Belly.
So it's a freckle belly. Mad Tom.
And they're small. They're under 4 inches.
Yeah, I was going to say, they look tiny.
They're very tiny. They're cute little guys.
Oh, look at them. This looks like something like I could put this in my aquarium if I had it.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, so it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just, it's aquarium sized.
I saw a thing, and I believe it to be true, just the other day about a catfish that was captured near the dam at a lake in Texas called Possum Kingdom.
Whoa.
Oh, well, and apparently I remember being a kid and being at Possum Kingdom, and some people, I was there at the dam, and we came in to get some supplies and on the boat and then go back to our campsite. And there were some guys coming out of the water near the dam in scuba gear. And the guys were shaking their heads, and they looked me in the eye and said, "Son, you would not believe, but there are catfish at the bottom of that dam that are big enough to swallow a man."
Whoa.
Yeah.
And I saw a picture the other day of a catfish that met that definition, and I think it was real, and it said to have been captured or caught. I don't know how you get this to the surface.
That's what I was thinking.
But at the dam at Possum Kingdom.
That's crazy.
I mean, this thing could have easily swallowed a man.
You hear these stories like that from all over the country in different lakes and rivers and and big bodies of water. But yeah, so I believe it. I think there are catfish that grow absolutely huge, and we've seen some that were that were actually caught that were man-sized.
Yeah,
gigantic.
But I mean, it is just insane. I mean, look up and see if you can find it, and we'll talk about it later about this catfish. It's Possum Kingdom Dam. Catfish, record size, something like that. You'll see if you can find it.
It was not a freckled belly Mad Tom, however.
No, because they're very small.
They are small, yes.
Well, here is 2 minutes of your life you're never going to get back. I'm sorry, folks. We got diverted by catfish. Let's head down to the swamp. And we really do have a lot of stuff to talk about in the swamp today. This story has to do with a hearing in which Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of these United States, is basically getting his butt handed to him in this hearing. Well, there's a lot of things that Republicans are pretty upset about with regard to the Department of Justice and the FBI. And here you've got the Attorney General showing up to answer questions. And conservatives were ready to unload. These cuts are long. But I'm going to tell you, I think it's worth the time. Both Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz went after Garland in a big way to say, you know what, there's something going on in America that's not right when it comes to the Department of Justice and the way they investigate certain groups. In other words, we got all kinds of centers that are there to help people through pregnancy centers, they call them, and they're getting bombed by the pro abortion forces who want to continue to have abortion in the country, and at the same time, a lot of people who believe in the right to life, as I do, are getting investigated and treated very harshly. I'm going to play both of these. We start with Josh Hawley, who is on fire about this.
You use an unbelievable show of force with guns that I just note liberals usually decry. We're supposed to hate long guns and assault-style weapons. You're happy to deploy them against Catholics and innocent children. Happy to. And then you haul him into court and a jury acquits him in 1 hour. I just suggest to you that is a disgraceful performance by your Justice Department and a disgraceful use of resources. I notice a pattern, though. The FBI field office in Richmond on the 23rd of January of this year issued a memorandum in which they advocated for, and I quote, the exploration of new avenues for tripwire and source development against traditionalist Catholics, it's their language, including those who favor the Latin Mass. Attorney General, are you cultivating sources and spies in Latin Mass parishes and other Catholic parishes around the country?
No, the Justice Department does not do that. It does not do investigations based on religion. I saw the document you have.
What did you do about it?
It's appalling. It's appalling. I'm in complete agreement with you. I understand that the FBI has withdrawn it and is now looking into how this could ever have happened.
How did it happen?
That's what they're looking into. But I'm totally in agreement with you. That document is appalling.
I'll tell you how it happened. This memorandum, which is supposed to be intelligent, cites extensively the Southern Poverty Law Center, which goes on to identify all of these different Catholics as being part of hate groups. Is this how the FBI, under your direction and leadership, is this how they do their intelligence work? They look at left-wing advocacy groups to target Catholics? Is this what's going on? I mean, clearly it is. How is this happening?
The FBI is not targeting Catholics, and as I've said, this is an inappropriate memorandum, and it doesn't reflect the methods that the FBI is supposed to be using. Should not be relying on any single organization without doing its own work.
Let me just ask you, as my time expires here, a very direct question. How many informants do you have in Catholic churches across America?
I don't know, and I don't believe we have any informants aimed at Catholic churches. We have a rule against investigations based on First Amendment.
He hedged his answer there. I don't know of any.
Activity, and Catholic churches are obviously First Amendment activity. But I don't know the specific answer to your question.
You don't know the specifics of anything, it seems, but apparently on your watch, this Justice Department is targeting Catholics, targeting people of faith, specifically for their faith views. And Mr. Attorney General, I'll just say to you, it's a disgrace.
Well, it is a disgrace. And, he was backpedaling as fast as he could go. But how does this happen? How does it get to the point where it gets into the FBI? They begin an investigation based on, in this particular case, information that came to them from the Southern Law Poverty Center, very left-wing advocacy group, and it's taken as, well, this is truth. Ted Cruz jumped on Garland as well, same topic.
There have been attacks all over the country. And yet, the Department of Justice has not brought these violent criminals to justice.
Let's talk about attacks against pregnancy centers in the country.
You contrast that. If you're a violent criminal and you attack a crisis pregnancy center, that is not a priority in the Biden Department of Justice. Contrast that to Mark Houck, who's a pro-life activist. He's a sidewalk counselor. And he had an altercation with someone who allegedly interfered with his son's personal space and threatened his son, and he pushed him. Now, in an ordinary world, pushing someone would be maybe a simple misdemeanor assault, but not under the Biden Department of Justice. If you're a pro-life activist, what can you expect? Well, in this instance, according to Mr. Houck's wife, 24 agents clad in body armor and ballistic helmets and shields and a battering ram showed up at his house pointing rifles at his family. Why do you send 24 agents in body armor to arrest a sidewalk counselor who happens to be pro-life, but you don't devote resources to prosecute people who are violently firebombing crisis pregnancies?
It is a priority of the department to prosecute and investigate and find the people who are doing those firebombings. They are doing it at night and in secret. And we have found one group which we did prosecute.
You found one. How many have there been? How many attacks?
There have been a lot. And if you have any information specifically as to who those people are, we would be glad. We would be glad to have that.
Did you personally authorize 20 agents going to Mr. Houck's house? And he offered to turn himself in through counsel, but you didn't want that. The Department of Justice wanted to make a show of it. Did you personally authorize it? And do you want to apologize to Mrs. Houck and her 7 children for being terrorized?
The decisions about how to do that are made at the level of the FBI agents on scene.
Did you know about it?
I did not know about it until the way you're describing it, and my understanding is the FBI disagrees with that description.
Well, all you can do is look at the pictures and draw your own conclusion there. I think the pictures back up the claim that the FBI came loaded for bear that day. Well, there's other stuff in the swamp as well we need to get very quickly. 59 House Democrats have broken rank and have joined Republicans in the House. Wow, that's a rare thing. To rein in Biden's inflationary executive orders. Dozens of House Democrats joined their Republican colleagues on Wednesday in a vote to require the White House to assess the inflationary effect of President Biden's executive orders before they are issued. The bill is the latest effort, according to the Bongino report, to pump the brakes on Biden administration policies that they say are causing the highest inflation levels seen in decades. The bill was supported by 59 Democrats and easily passed in a 272 to 148 vote. Now, the question is, will it go over to the Senate and find any ground? How do they get it considered in a Democrat Senate? I'm not sure. But here you have, here we have 59 Democrats who are agreeing that the president's spending is out of control. John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, has been in a hospital for 2 weeks for alleged depression. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. That's what we're being told that's what he's there for. Is that really what he's there for? I mean, how are we to know? They say, well, he didn't have a stroke or anything like that. No, he didn't have another stroke. Well, so Republicans in Pennsylvania are now saying Fetterman needs to make an appearance on camera. He may be, depressed, but he needs to show his bona fides. He needs to prove that he's okay, or as okay as he was before he went into the hospital. Show us he's alive and well. If he's unable to do so, we call upon our elected representatives to intervene immediately. Apparently, I'm wondering, is there a rumor floating around Pennsylvania that maybe it's not depression, it's something else? Interestingly enough, we'll probably never find out. Targeting parents, Jim Jordan says the DOJ is handing over documents in its House investigation. This according to the Washington Examiner. 4 documents that related to its investigation of parents' protest at school board meetings that caught the attention of the FBI and the Department of Justice. FBI has turned over 4 documents, but the Department of Education, which also received the subpoena, has yet to come through. We'll see how that plays out. And right now, there are no subpoenas that have been issued against Hunter Biden and his family with regard to the probe that's ongoing. James Comer had asked them to do so. They missed their deadline. And people went back to Comer and said, what the hell? What's going on here? And he says he's not yet issued subpoenas. He's not going to issue subpoenas just now, insisting that he's practicing restraint to show good faith. In other words, they asked them to provide. They had a deadline. They did not provide. And now the question is, will he go a step further and issue subpoenas? He's practicing restraint, saying we need to show that we worked as hard as we possibly could before we issued subpoenas, and that will give us a better case to be made. So he said, we're not issuing them yet, but I have a feeling they're prepared to issue them if they need to issue those subpoenas. 21 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. If you haven't been to the Glock store, you really should go down there. About 35,000 square feet of just amazing stuff. They've got these shoot rooms that are really amazing. Cabana Wife and I went down to the Glock store, and honestly, it was a great time. We had a great time, getting some education. I got some great education, and I got disabused of the notion that I was the better shot. She sure showed me. But if this sounds like fun to you, why don't you call them up and set up a couple session, a training session with you and your significant other? 615-682-6565. That's 615-682-6565. You might get the opportunity to try out a whole bunch of different rental handguns. with or without optics. So if you're looking to buy a weapon, you can decide which one you like best. Again, you can go to shoot270.com and click on book a shooting session, or just call this number, 615-682-6565. Only at McGill's world-famous Glock store, minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
Closing arguments heard today in the Alec Murdaugh trial, and the money news, figuring out what's going on Wall Street. Plus, tracking severe weather tonight in the mid-state. All that and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour right here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And right after that newscast with Mac Morey, we'll have our weekly conversation with Pete Hegseth from Fox News. He's now a resident of the Middle Tennessee area. If you enjoy those conversations, hang around. He'll be with us at about 4:35 or so. The border situation, there continue to be little stories that come down that just make us go, oh my gosh, just shake your head about what's happening at the southern border. Here's the latest from the postmillennial.com. House Judiciary Committee Republicans launched a probe into the alleged murder and rape of a young autistic woman by a member of the MS-13 gang who was arrested at the U.S.-Mexico border as an unaccompanied minor. Jim Jordan asked Biden's Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas And Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra in letters sent late Monday to explain how a known gangbanger from El Salvador was released from custody by both departments and permitted to live in the United States. The Biden administration's open border policies have created vulnerabilities that criminal aliens and gang members exploit to the detriment of American citizens. Jordan and Representative Tom McClintock of California, chairman of the Immigration Subcommittee, wrote in a letter to Becerra. Wow. This is really ugly. Suspect was arrested at the Rio Grande City, Texas border checkpoint. We don't know if his background was checked or not. Well, how can you not know that? Are we just letting people into the country and not checking their backgrounds? Just, I'm sure you look like a nice fellow. Come on in. America's this way. It's not known whether the Biden regime knew of the unnamed suspect's gang associations, though Aberdeen police had known of his gang affiliations since earlier this year. This is Aberdeen, Maryland. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which oversees the Border Patrol, did not disclose in a statement provided to the Washington Examiner in February if it screened the suspect at the border. I have a feeling if they had, they might have done something differently, but who knows? This is what's going on down there. I mean, it's such chaos and so many people trying to get through that they're not taking the care that they need to. It's just like, we got to get people pushed through. If we don't get this, will there be a backlog tomorrow? And we have no place to put these people. Push them through. There's America. We'll sort it out later. Not a great policy by this president and this administration. You know what? When you say you're going to be a sanctuary city, you might want to think before you make that declaration about what it might cost you. New York City has spent $100 million to house illegals bussed in from out of state. Wow. In fact, they have actually got 4 hotels that they house the migrants in Manhattan, according to the New York Post. So all told, about $100 million now falling on the shoulders of New York City taxpayers. And it was the same city that said, oh, well, we're a sanctuary city. Our arms are open wide. We are a compassionate city. I wonder how those taxpayers feel, how compassionate they feel when they find out that $100 million of their taxpayer dollars have gone to house people that have been bussed in. It's all fixable. That's the thing about it. It's so fixable. Like that, this thing could be turned around. But the Biden administration continues not to do that. 4:30 now on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
.30, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 75 degrees in Nashville. Expecting some possible severe weather later on tonight. A level 1 out of 5 in Nashville, Murfreesboro, upper mid-state portion of Tennessee. Level 2 out of 5, you go to the southern mid-state portion, and it's looking like it'll hit middle Tennessee, specifically Nashville, Murfreesboro, and all that area, anywhere from 9 to 11 p.m., maybe a little bit earlier. We'll be keeping you updated with how that storm's moving along. Weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. Closing arguments underway in the Alex Murdaugh trial in South Carolina. Derek Dennis reporting.
There were charts showing the cell phone tracing, exact timing, and the dropouts on Alec Murdaugh's phone and that of his wife Maggie and son Paul before, during, and after the murders. Prosecutor Creighton Waters arguing in his closing that Alec's phone mysteriously went undetected for a time.
From 6:52 to 9:04.
Maggie and Paul's murders estimated at around 8:45 p.m. Alec denying any involvement, but couldn't tell investigators the last time he saw Maggie and Paul alive.
Why in the world would an innocent, reasonable father and husband lie about that?
Defense attorneys present their closing next.
And some Wall Street news, Derry Albinger.
Stocks closed mostly lower to start the month of March on renewed worries about inflation. The Dow closed up 5 points while the Nasdaq fell 76 points and the S&P gave up 19. After a hot start to the year, the markets have been struggling under persistent concerns that inflation isn't slowing as quickly as economists or the Federal Reserve would have hoped, and in some cases, it's resurged. That means the central bank will likely continue to raise interest rates for a while, which can drive down inflation, but it can also raise the risk of a recession. Drug maker Eli Lilly says it will cut prices for some older insulin users later this year and will immediately give more patients access to a cap on the cost they pay to fill prescriptions. The changes promise critical relief to some people with diabetes who can face annual costs of more than $1,000 for the life-saving medication.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
You know, finding value is important all the time, but especially these days. That's why I'm so confident in recommending Genesis Diamonds. Value is the core principle that Genesis was founded upon. The owner, a former diamond wholesaler who used to sell diamonds to upscale jewelry stores, but he hated how much they marked up the prices when they sold them to their customers. So he cut them out, started selling direct to the public at fair and honest prices that eliminated the traditionally fat retail profit margins. That direct importer advantage still applies at Genesis Diamonds. That's why they beat everyone else's price on GIA-certified diamonds. At Genesis, you get a higher quality diamond with the best cut for maximum brilliance, no commission salespeople, a personal, relaxed shopping experience, free service for life on any purchase. And you also get the best rings money can buy from names like Decore and Veragio, many more. Best selection, highest quality, guaranteed best value, and a locally owned company with amazing international connections. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, Go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
"38 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk on our Newsmaker hotline. I look forward to this every week. Pete Hegseth from the weekend edition of Fox and Friends and a resident of Middle Tennessee as well. Always good to have our weekly conversation with Pete. Pete, I want to tap into your military knowledge. Hey, it's good to have you on. I want to tap into your military knowledge. You have a great deal of experience in that regard. And I want to take not the 30,000 foot view, but maybe even the satellite view. I mean, I want to look at the world in big terms right now. I'm beginning to become very nervous with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're sending military advisors to Taiwan. The Chinese are not happy with us. They said that they claim Taiwan, and we're bound and determined to defend them if something should happen. China and Russia now working hand in hand in military training and exercises, and they have a military agreement of some kind. This is a very difficult time when you have a man who represents the United States who yesterday sounded like this.
You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female.
I've played that 100 times. I don't have any idea what he was trying to say. I mean, it's very scary for Americans if you really look at how tense the world is right now to have a guy like this as the leader of the free world.
Yeah, I mean, it's an old adage, but it's very true. I mean, weakness invites aggression, invites challenge. And you have a very patient superpower in China, from the Communist Revolution to the remaking of their economy, to the building of their army. What they say they spend on their military budget is a fraction of what they really spend. Their entire economy and economic power, frankly, are oriented against completely changing the tectonic plates of the world order. And I don't mean that in a conspiracy sense. I mean that in a sense of, after World War II, the United States established a series of systems, many of which have turned around and now work against us, like the UN, to make the West and America the preeminent powers that set the terms of what happens in the world. China was passed over by that because they had their own revolutions, their own internal issues, and they believe they should set the terms of the future. And they look at Biden, they look at Democrats writ large, they look at our internal cultural civil war, they look at the war in Afghanistan, and they see a country in America completely incapable of both execution and the kind of moral will that would be required for victory to take on what's happening in the world. So there are those that believe that Ukraine and fighting it is preventing World War III. I'm on the other side of that equation. I think the more we dabble and flirt and escalate, the more likely we are to create a World War I type scenario, which triggers a wider war. And China is betting that if not now, 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, because of internal conflict, America will not be in a place to win that conflict. And when great powers clash, if you have a declining power, if that's what America is, I hope that's not the case. There's always a war that sets the terms of who sets the terms in the future. And that's why what we do in Taiwan will tell China exactly how prepared we are to defend other interests around the globe.
I'm concerned about our leadership, in which you addressed so capably there. But I'm also concerned about the fact that our military readiness may not be what it should be, especially since we're sending so much military equipment to Ukraine right now.
Brian, I'm writing a book about this right now that'll come out next year, basically an extension of Battle for the American Mind. It's going to roughly called Battle for the American Military, or the War on Warriors. It didn't happen over 100 years like it did in our classrooms, but a couple of decades of chipping away at warfighting being the core focus into social engineering. I mean, when we inserted women in combat, I mean, the story's deeper, so I don't want to, but when we inserted women in combat and then ignored all the data that would have a negative effect on our ability to execute, it was part of the sliding scale of not worrying as much about our lethality and more about virtue signaling, how diverse our military is. None of those, and now you wonder why kids from Middle America, from Middle Tennessee, look around and say, why would I join the military again when it looks a lot like my college campus? And, if I'm a white Christian heterosexual male, then I'm last in line for all these different types of metrics that the DOD looks at in all the wrong ways. You want the best, baddest, most capable people in your fighter jets, leading your infantry battalions, your tanks, your Space Force. And I've been interviewing active duty members now for months. To a man and to a woman, they're looking around going, this is not about warfighting. I don't know what we're doing, but we're making our vehicles green, and we're cutting down on training to do more woke training, and we're staffing our units based on gender and race. And none of that leads to having the best people at the helm when the bullets are flying. And you add that to political leadership that's foolish, and I'm scared for my kids and grandkids and what kind of military they would think about entering into.
And I not to belabor the point, but I mean, we got a president who can barely function and a vice president who, if were to take the reins, is totally, completely, 1,000% unqualified to be the commander-in-chief.
Utterly unqualified. They're the national level of Lori Lightfoot, who was an academic and a lawyer before becoming mayor and then fell flat on her face and lost re-election. Biden's been wrong on everything. Kamala Harris is totally incapable, as you said. Can you imagine a real crisis where they had to make decisions? Like, Donald Trump in the Oval Office is weighing what America's interests are and understands how to deal with thugs. And he knows how to punch them in the nose and make sure they know he'll kill them at a moment's notice if necessary. That's how a superpower acts against, in a world that's otherwise full of chaos. It's the next 2 years are going to be grip it and rip it, Brian, because if I'm looking to move, now might be the time if I'm an adversary.
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking. When we're weak and we're perceived as being divided, which you ably pointed out, what would stop them if there was ever going to be a time? It seems like now is the time that they might try to say, okay, well, we got the military is weak and the country is divided and the president is weak and the vice president is even weaker. I mean, what's to stop them? There's nothing that would stop somebody like Xi Jinping.
No, and we're still completely reliant upon their economy. Should a Republican win in 2024, in addition to the classroom, decoupling ourselves and building domestic capabilities that don't rely on technology and pharmaceuticals and all these other aspects from China is absolutely critical. Because if they can bring us to meet our needs economically, and then they believe our will is weak, then so this is they still have us under their thumb, which makes this moment feel even more scary. I don't know. Only Xi Jinping and God know what's happening next.
On another topic, it appears that the Supreme Court, after the debate that took place yesterday with regard to pushing the president back, there are also Supreme Court cases that seem like they're going to be pushing back in the college arena against affirmative action. And affirmative action is going to be shot down by the Supreme Court, which it occurs to me makes it all the more interesting why all this other woke ideology is being pushed to CRT, DEI, ESG. I mean, there's an alphabet soup of things that are going on around the campuses, around the businesses of America, and university hospitals, etc., to replace, because they're about to lose affirmative action, and I think they realized that some time ago. and began pushing these other ideologies to be in place when that dies.
That's possible. I mean, I don't think this stuff started before Trump, and they wouldn't have foreseen his ability to place 3 Supreme Court justices and flip the court. So maybe they thought it would happen. Maybe they would happen eventually, though. I mean, these are happening concurrently. See, they'll accuse the Supreme Court of being racist, and more proof that America is systemically racist, and they'll find new ways in these universities who live by the religion of DEI and CRT and ESG, as you pointed out. And so they'll bake in policies that don't use race explicitly, but find other ways to use it as a factor, because at this point their education is premised on that concept, and they just can't quit it and won't. So that'll be a victory for the recognition of merit and color blindness within society, which is, but it feels like about the only place right now, Brian, that we can win, thanks to Trump and those justices for sanity. I love what DeSantis is doing in Florida. You have to go at these public institutions and just say you're violating the law. Like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 says you can't discriminate based on race and gender and sex. Like, that's it. If you're a governor in a free state like Tennessee, you should be going to every public university and saying, what exactly are you doing, and is it in keeping with that act? And in most places, of course, it's not.
I heard you talk about some of this with Will Cain this weekend. You know, I got to tell you, one of my favorite parts of the show is when you two guys get up in front of that to have had a television screen like that back in the day when I was doing television. I'm very jealous of it. But you stand at that big curved screen and you start explaining things. When you start laying it all out, I mean, I just sit there and go, dang, when you see the big picture like that and how point A, B, and C all connect together, that's a very effective segment that you do every week on the show.
Well, I appreciate that, Brian. It's called Off the Wall. We do it once on Saturday and once on Sunday, and we kind of work hard to try to find the big issue that people are talking about and dig a little deeper, use some visual aids. You know, we're all kind of visual learners, so we have fun with it. I love working with Will. Yep.
All right. Well, listen, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks again for dropping by. It's always a great conversation.
You got it. Thanks, Brian.
All right, buddy. 90. It's now 49 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Can inflation and recession affect your retirement? Join Beacon Capital Management for a free lunch seminar tomorrow. There's still time if you call right now to get on board with this. Thursday, March 2nd, Ruth Chris Steakhouse in Nashville. Here's the number, 615-488-9303. You know, when economists start pointing to signs of recession, it's natural to feel uneasy. Retirees on a fixed income can feel especially vulnerable by creating a plan that takes worst-case scenarios into account. However, you can feel confident about retirement even in a recession. Give Beacon Capital Management a call for a free financial plan checkup. This no-pressure, no-obligation comprehensive analysis will help you understand your risk exposure and will help you uncover potential hidden fees or critical gaps in your plan that could cost you big in retirement. If you've saved at least $250,000 for retirement, give Beacon a call for a free, no-pressure, no-obligation financial plan checkup, 615-488-9303. Learn more at beaconcm.com.
Tracking severe weather in Middle Tennessee. Some much needed financial help for those local schools near the toxic train derailment in Ohio. Plus, a lot more of that. 5 o'clock, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
56 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. Mac Morey in the newsroom. Chris Weber in the control room. You guys will love this story. It's out of Connecticut. There's a guy named Joseph DeRuvo Jr. Who hasn't worn shoes in, I don't know. He took his shoes off 20 years ago and hasn't put them back on.
Wow. He's one with the earth.
Yeah, and you know, he jogs and he runs and he said, so he goes to some places and they say, sir, you're not wearing any shoes. And they go, yeah, I know. He says, well, you know, we have rules against that. You can't come in here. Well, what are the rules? Well, they don't ever really know what the rules are. They just know that they've heard there's a rule, right? Well, we don't want you stepping on a piece of broken glass or something in the store. And people are complaining.
People are
really,
complaining
honestly,
that he's barefoot?
If you're in a grocery store and you see a guy walking down the aisle in the bakery goods section, for example, and you know, doesn't have any shoes on, that would offend you to the point where you would reach out and complain to the manager?
It would make me go, boy, I bet his feet are nasty.
Yeah. Well, apparently they say his wife, age 61, says, well, we go to mom and pop places where they're used to us and they don't really make a big deal about it. Said we get thrown out of a lot of places.
Oh,
wow. How about that? 57, make it, 57 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
It is 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 75 degrees in Nashville. Tracking storms in Middle Tennessee right now as they move our way. A level 1 out of 5 in the upper portion of the mid-state as far as severity is concerned. 2 out of 5 in the southern portion, south of Murfreesboro. More risks of flooding in the southern portion of the state as well. On a flood watch starting at 6 p.m. Wind and hail, a possibility in Middle Tennessee along with 1 to 3 inches of rain. That flood potential will transition to northwest counties in Tennessee tomorrow night more than likely. We'll keep you updated with all that as we track those storms. Weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. While in East Palestine, getting an on-site update on cleanup at the site of February's toxic train derailment. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine visiting the town's high school where students are back in the classroom. Dave Packer.
Praise for teachers from Ohio Governor Mike DeWine visiting East Palestine High School Wednesday, which had been closed following the toxic derailment. DeWine says those teachers made sure the learning continued.
They were doing a lot of outreach to kids at the time when the kids were totally out of school, going out, meeting with kids, meeting with families. I think the community can be very proud of the teachers, very proud of the students.
Norfolk Southern Railroad says it's donating $300,000 for the East Palestine School District without condition.
Over to a story about a Pennsylvania man who's suspected of trying to bring explosives onto an airplane, now facing criminal charges. Aaron Katursky.
It was just after 11 a.m. Monday when Lehigh Valley Airport notified the FBI about an explosive in a passenger's checked luggage. The passenger, Mark Muffley, was booked on an Allegiant flight to Sanford, Florida. In the bag's lining, TSA officers spotted a circular compound 3 inches in diameter wrapped in wax paper and clear plastic wrap. The package contained a mix of flash powder and black powder with a quick fuse attached. There was also a can of butane, a lighter, and a wireless drill with cordless batteries. Muffley was paged to security, but instead he left the airport and was arrested at home.
Here in the Volunteer State News 2 says that the Nashville Fire Department is asking for community to help to find an unidentified arsonist. This comes after the Hickory Lakes apartment was engulfed in flames about 3 months ago. Looking through the surviving camera footage, officials noticed a person walking through the parking lot towards the office before the fire, then setting the fire, and then leaving the apartments. A cash reward of $5,000 is being offered if anyone has information that could lead to an arrest. And right now, staying in Tennessee, lawmakers are advancing bills that would support one of Governor Lee's second-term priorities.
Roads and easing traffic congestion are among those priorities, and Fox 17 says a bill creating paid choice lanes is getting some action today. The House version headed to the Government Operations Committee with the recommendation that it pass. The Senate version's in the Transportation and Safety Committee. Choice lanes are lanes which motorists could pay to use, which TDOT says will get you where you're going faster. TDOT says the average speed in these lanes in other states is typically 50 miles per hour, while everyone else may be crawling bumper to bumper. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It's 7 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. I am your friend and radio buddy. This is hour number 3 of the big extravaganza. On this, the first day of March, man, the year just flying by. Yeah, March 1. They call that the Ides of March. I don't know.
Is that today?
I don't know.
Is
it? I don't know what the Ides of March really is. What is the Ides of March?
March. No, that's the 15th.
Okay, well, then it's not the Ides of March.
It is not. No.
What is the Ides of March? I've always heard that term. I don't know that I really know what that is.
Let's see. The Ides of March. I know it's got something to do with Caesar, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Caesar?
History thing, okay.
I don't know, something with the Romans.
Well, I need to stop here and have a conversation. There are some weird people in this planet. People who do things that are can only be described as. I mean, honestly, I just need to let you know that your friend and radio buddy is not on a dating app.
Oh yeah.
I am happily married to Cabana wife, and she knows about this too. Somebody has appropriated my pictures from the interweb and has put them on a dating site and is representing themselves as somebody that they're not. I mean, I don't know who's doing it.
Yeah. They're not pretending to be you, but they're using your image, your likeness.
They're using my images, and they have come up with another name. I'm not going to draw any attention to it because I would tell you what the name is. But I just want everybody to know, if it ever comes up, I am not on a dating app, and I did. These pictures were stolen from me.
They did choose quite a dapper photo of you.
Actually, one of them is okay. The other, I'm not so happy about that picture.
Oh, all right.
I wish they'd chosen a better picture. I mean, they caught me when I was about 20 pounds heavier. I don't like that.
The one in the tuxedo is a nice picture, though.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's not a bad picture. But anyway, I'm not. It's not me. And by the way, thank you for the listeners who keep bringing this to my attention. I appreciate it because I would not have known about it otherwise.
It's just, I don't get, like, what's the point? Are they doing it? Are they doing it to affect you, or are they doing it because they want someone to think maybe they think you're a handsome guy and they think you'll be their lucky ticket? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's baffling, and I'm not involved in it in any way. I just want to get that on the record, make that officially known that I am not on a dating app. Happily married, and Cabana wife would kill me. I sort of fear her. She's the better
I don't
shot.
blame you.
Remember I told you?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Other thing, we got this email, or I guess it came to where did it come in from? The text line?
Text line, yeah.
Yeah. A picture that is of signs going up inside Nashville in the areas where they have installed these license plate readers that the police are now using. We had a big conversation about that yesterday. They are now posting gigantic yellow signs that read, license plate reader technology in use. So talk about defeating the purpose of having the license plate readers. Why in the world would you put up these big yellow signs to detract and tell everybody we have license plate readers? Because what you're basically doing is you're telling every criminal out there who might be in the database, don't drive around here, or we will come and arrest you. I don't understand it. It defeats the purpose of the license plate readers. Yeah. And so I reached out to a source to find out, where did this all come from? It came from the council. In other words, when they took up the license plate readers, they put some restrictions and said, well, if you're going to use the readers, you have to put up signs that tell everybody that the readers are being used. Talk about defeating the purpose. Talk about doing everything you can to kill off a program that will put bad people behind bars. And it already has. And several, not one, several occasions I've been told by reliable sources who work the streets and are right there on the front lines. This thing is working. It's working well. It's putting bad people away. But again, why in the world would you go through the process of trying this whole thing out and then putting up these gigantic signs that say, "Don't drive by here unless if you're a criminal, because we might arrest you"? I don't understand. I know that there are a lot of people within sound of my voice. So yeah, we found this out, who do not like the license plate readers. I don't want to reopen that debate. We had that yesterday. I get it. I understand. Let's talk big picture right now about what's going on in the world around us. We live in dangerous times. We live in times where someone will take your pictures and put them on a dating app, and that's a dangerous thing. No, could be. No, I'm talking about big picture here, world view kind of stuff. We're fighting a proxy war in Russia at a time when Vladimir Putin is ill and increasingly unstable. Just sent 300 military advisors to Taiwan, an island nation that China claims as its own. Have vowed to defend Taiwan if the Chinese invade. We got China and Russia conducting joint military exercises. That's right. Think about that. Our two great nuclear adversaries on the world stage are now working hand in hand, not to our betterment, against us. Iran, according to a report that's just out, is only days away from constructing nuclear weapons, having the materials to make a nuclear weapon, let's put it that way, bringing instability again to the Middle East. North Korea is got an unstable leader. Looking at a weak American leadership, has developed long-range intercontinental missiles, has threatened South Korea, and of course we would be obliged to defend South Korea against any incursion that might come from. What if all these things started to happen at one time? What if all of our enemies on the world stage decided it's time to take America down? Ladies and gentlemen, don't worry, because, at the helm is the leader of the free world, Joe Biden, who yesterday said this.
You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female.
What? I don't think I got that, Joe.
You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female.
I'm just going to put that on a loop for a little bit. See if you can decipher what he's saying.
You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female. You docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male and female. You docs are good.
I think you got it right, Chris. I don't know how you deciphered that. Maybe you've been listening to me for too long. You docs are good, but what is it?
But if there's any angels in
they're all nurses, male and female.
Yeah,
the docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses, male.
If there's any angels in heaven, they're all male. Male, they're nurses, male or female. I think is what he said.
Yeah,
something like that. But I mean, you should be very concerned about a man who tells creepy stories like this being in charge right now. I mean, clearly this man is not up to the task, and he's creepy.
When I was at Walter Reed all that time, after a couple craniotomies, I was lying there.
Think about that for a moment. He just acknowledged something I've known, and I think most Americans do not know. He's had a couple of brain surgeries. They've cracked his skull open and worked on his brain. I honestly, I covered Joe Biden before the craniotomies, before he had the aneurysms, and I covered him after. He was never the same. I don't think the guy's right as a result of that. But nonetheless, we pick up the rest of this creepy story.
And I had a nurse named Pearl Nelson, military. She'd come in and do things that I don't think you learn in medical school, nursing school. She'd whisper in my ear. I couldn't understand her. She'd whisper, she'd lean down. She'd actually breathe on me to make sure that there was a connection, a human connection. She even went home and brought back her pillow from her own bed because she knew the one I had the one comfortable. But I'm not joking.
You can barely understand him even there at times. Mumbling and bumbling and stumbling his way across the world stage. This is what our adversaries are looking at. We have a president who I really worry about him getting the phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning. Mr. President, we need a decision. And
the docs are good. If there's any angels in heaven, they're all nurses.
And he mumbled something back to you. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't think the guy could really handle it. And what's even sadder is that we have a complete moronic idiot as our vice president. This woman is not prepared to become commander-in-chief should something happen. She's simply not up to it. I love to do this. I don't know if you've heard her go on and on and on about her love of Venn diagrams. I think it speaks volumes that she has to have things broken down for her in very simple terms to even grasp the concepts we're talking about. You know, a Venn diagram, those three circle things where something in the middle is where, you know, all these different things merge. She loves the Venn diagram. I mean, have you heard? Ladies and gentlemen, deep thoughts from Vice President Kamala Harris regarding Venn diagrams.
Think of it then in the context of, like, I like to think about a lot of things in the context of a Venn diagram. I love Venn diagrams. Is there a Venn diagram for this? I'm telling you, it's fascinating when you do. Remember Venn diagrams, those three circles? And then let's just see where they overlap. You will not be surprised because I have constructed a Venn diagram on this. Remember those three circles, how they overlap? I love Venn diagrams, so I just do. Whenever you're dealing with conflict, pull out a Venn diagram, right? And so, you know, the three circles. And so I asked my team, right? They're fantastic. He sees the Venn diagram of it all. He sees that there are those circles, and maybe people seem that they're a little different. They live in different parts of the country. They may be different age or different race. But that area in the middle, that overlap. I asked my team to do a Venn diagram of where these attacks are happening. You know, I asked my team to do a Venn diagram for me of where we are seeing attacks and who are the attacks against and the similarity. And when you look at a diagram of the, just a Venn diagram in that regard, it tells a real tale.
God help us all. If that woman were to become the commander-in-chief. I mean, can you imagine, Madam President, I mean, imagine that she were the commander-in-chief and, you know, there was a moment of crisis and she had to make some life or death decisions very quickly. Could you have somebody turn that into a Venn diagram for me before I make my decision? It'll really clarify things for me and my thinking. She can't comprehend complex ideas or espouse them either. And so she has to have things simplified, dumbed down for her so that she can visualize it. She's a visual learner, I suppose, and needs help with the Venn diagrams. I'm concerned. I'm really concerned that we have a president who is not able to function and a vice president who is not prepared to take over should that be necessary. And yet, this is the man that the Democrats are going to put up, and apparently they're going to run as a team. They're going to run for re-election, according to all accounts. Lord help us all. It is 20 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock is what I'm trying to say on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. I'm just rattled. I mean, it shakes you up, you know, when you start thinking about that stuff. All right, let's talk about USS. Large home repairs can be scary when you're talking about things like waterproofing problems or foundation repair problems. Here's the truth. It could be something big that must be fixed. It could be something small that would become big if you don't do something about it. Or in some cases, you may find out it's nothing at all. Bottom line is you're not an expert in this area and you need some help. You need some guidance. And for my money, that would be United Structural Systems. 23,000 satisfied residential customers. Here's how it works. They come out to your house. They take a look at what you got going on. They say, okay, here's our idea. Here's what we think you should do. And they give you a plan of action. And if you decide to go forward, there is never any requirement that you pay anything until the job is done, and you're completely satisfied. No down payment. Financing is available. Lifetime warranties guaranteed for the life of the home. You see, USS wants to take the stress out of home repair. They guarantee their best. Call USS. Serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama. Online at USSTN.com or call this number, 615-227-2275.
Possible severe storms coming in Middle Tennessee. Already seeing some lightning and thunder in northwest counties in Tennessee. And then Attorney General Merrick Garland today said some words on fentanyl in the nation. And top pick Jalen Carter from Georgia could be in jeopardy in his NFL career. That and more 530 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 25 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Hope you get home safely. Take it easy out there. Keep an eye on the weather as the evening progresses. We're expecting that things might get a little dicey, as you heard Mac Morey say just a few moments ago. You know, there's not anybody in this town who doesn't have, really, I think, lovely, heartwarming, good feelings about two people that come to mind. One of them is Dolly Parton. Hey, but by the way, I was cleaning out some boxes in my garage this weekend. I actually found that actual signet, the actual autograph that they got for me years ago at Fox News when Dolly Parton came into the newsroom in Washington, and everybody said, "Oh, Wilson's not here. He's out on assignment, but he's a big fan of yours." And she wrote me, she signed an autograph. and I found it.
that's
It was in a box. Yeah.
Very
it was
nice,
great.
but boy, you had to be kicking yourself.
Yeah.
when you
Oh,
found
I
that
was
out of
killing
your-
it that I wasn't there because,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to have, I wanted to meet Dolly Parton. I still want to meet Dolly Parton.
Who doesn't?
Yeah,
I
seriously.
mean, who doesn't want to meet Dolly Parton?
She's the best.
She's a sweetheart. Everybody loves Dolly. Everybody else, everybody loves Amy Grant. I mean, you never hear anybody. She's a lovely human being. Best-selling Christian artist Amy Grant shared new details this week about a bicycle accident. Remember that bicycle accident happened, and she took a nosedive, and she was at the Harpeth Hills golf course. She was riding a bicycle, hit a pothole, and apparently did a face plant. I mean, it must have been pretty bad. Thank goodness she had a helmet on, and it protected her. But she talked on the Today Show about it, and then she revealed some details we had not yet heard. Left her unconscious, she says, for 10 minutes.
Wow.
That's scary. Doctors at Vanderbilt University Medical Center treated her for injuries. Wearing a bicycle helmet saved her life, she said via Today. And I agree. And, yes, they look goofy. Yes, we all can agree. You look goofy wearing one of those little bicycle helmets. But, I mean, it really can save you from a severe head injury. She said she suffered a brain injury that caused her memory loss. After the accident, she began writing memories in a notebook as a way to exercise her mind. I was just writing to remember, making sure I could remember everybody's name in my family, which I couldn't at first. It may take up to 18 months for Grant to complete the recovery from the accident. During her Today interview, the singer also outlined her bounce back from a 2020 heart surgery. Remember, she went through that. And then she had cysts removed from her throat in January. I mean, she's been through it, but she says she feels fantastic now. Fantastic enough to get on the road again. She kicks off a spring tour this week in California. The nearest shows include an appearance on the 28th of April in Huntsville, April 29th in Chattanooga, and she's got a new single coming out called Trees We'll Never See. On March 24th. Maybe she should write a song, Potholes I Did Not See. I'm sorry. That's not even funny. It's too soon. But anyway, glad to hear that Amy Grant is doing well. And, I've been in concerts where Vince has described it as being, pretty serious.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I think she's spoken at any length at all. Glad you're on the road to recovery.
Absolutely.
And we still, not that we're sucking up, would still love to sit down with you and Vince and get that interview that we want.
Never going to happen, Brian.
I've actually interviewed Amy Grant before in D.C. And I interviewed by satellite Vince Gill. But now I can't get arrested with the Gill family. I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, you just they think you're gonna confiscate some guitars or
then maybe that's
just,
it.
You're just gonna fanboy out all over Vince, and they don't want it. They're just like, I can't do it.
I promise not to gush. 5:30 now. Super Talk 99.7.
30 minutes after the hour of 5 o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 73 degrees in Nashville. Tracking some severe weather in the mid-state tonight. Some storms already hitting northwestern counties in Tennessee. There's more risk of flooding in the southern portion of the state there. There's a flood watch that begins in about an hour, 30 minutes now. 6 o'clock is when that flood watch goes into effect in the southern portion of Middle Tennessee. Wind and hail, a possibility throughout all of the mid-state, along with 1 to 3 inches of rain. Weather traffic coming up just a few minutes away. Attorney General Merrick Garland was on Capitol Hill today where he told the Senate Judiciary Committee that more needs to be done to stop fentanyl from being sold to young people on social media. And Flaherty.
Garland grew emotional in his testimony, talking about the number of children and young adults dying of fentanyl overdoses.
The cartels that are creating these pills and that are distributing them within the United States are the most horrid individuals you can imagine.
He said the U.S. government needs a way to force social media companies to help law enforcement track down illegal transactions and to prevent algorithms from promoting the dangerous pills.
And some legal trouble for a star football player. The potential top pick in the NFL draft is a wanted man. Georgia Bulldog Jalen Carter is named in arrest warrants, charging him with reckless driving and racing leading up to a crash in January that killed a staffer and a teammate. Carter released a statement saying on Twitter it's inaccurate information and that he has no question in his mind that he'll be fully exonerated of any criminal wrongdoing. And right now in Tennessee, lawmakers are advancing bills that would support one of Governor Lee's second-term priorities.
Roads and easing traffic congestion are among those priorities, and Fox 17 says a bill creating paid choice lanes is getting some action today. The House version headed to the Government Operations Committee with the recommendation that it pass. The Senate version's in the Transportation and Safety Committee. Choice lanes are lanes which motorists could pay to use, which TDOT says will get you where you're going faster. TDOT says the average speed in these lanes in other states is typically 50 miles per hour, while everyone else may be crawling bumper to bumper. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And that's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
You know, Eurofix has a very different business philosophy. They staff all the locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop. That's so they can be ready when your emergency pops up out of nowhere. I mean, have you ever noticed how hard it is to get a right now appointment for vehicle repair in some places? Some dealers can be more than 2 weeks out just to get an appointment, but not at Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car now. If you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, why don't you call Eurofix? Owner Aaron Stokes says we will never be too busy for our customers. We are here to take their pain away now. Eurofix repairs all European cars, and Eurofix says yes to a speedy repair when others can't or won't. Family owned for some 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. And tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
538 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. Glad that you're with us on this Wednesday, the first day of March, where legend has it, it comes in like a lion and leaves like a lamb.
That's what they say.
That's what they say, and we're not sure what they mean by that.
Or who they are.
Well, who is they? The people who say those things. They say. Speaking of which, I mean, I guess the pollen. What's the pollen like today? You got the ability to look at the pollen report.
Let's check it out.
Let's check it because I mean, it seems like it's one of those days that's just tearing people up. Is it pretty bad?
Pollen count. It is. Luke says tree pollens are low today.
I don't believe that one bit. I don't believe that at all.
Let's check another source.
I don't think that source is very reliable.
Let's check pollen.com.
Okay.
They are saying today was 8.3, and that is in the medium to high category.
Well, okay.
So,
whatever it is, it's tearing me up. Whatever's in the air now. It may be that I'm surrounded by trash trees, as I discovered yesterday.
Did you confirm?
Yes, I did. I downloaded the app, and I went out there and snapped a picture of the blossoms that are on the tree. I mean, listen, and it says Bradford pear. I mean, right away about Bradford pear. Yeah, and I mean, you would not believe the number of people who have reached out to me, willing to do whatever is necessary to take down my Bradford pear trees.
Yeah, people really hate them.
People hate them. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, they may be a reviled tree, but right now they're having a pretty good moment because they look great.
Yeah.
I mean, they
little
look
white
beautiful.
blooms. Yeah,
they're pretty. For a trash tree.
But yeah, I know. I mean, here on stately Wilson Manor, we don't want trash trees. That's not what we want.
No, sir.
And apparently I have trash trees. I did not know this. Now I'm looking at my landscaping in a whole different way. I mean, I was satisfied with the trees until I found out that many people now revile them and call them trash trees. I don't want no trash trees on my property.
Yeah, stuff. By the way, it says the top allergens right now are juniper, alder, and maple. I don't know if where the trash trees fall in that category, if they're on the list somewhere, but they're not in the top allergens apparently right now.
I don't know. Well, anyway, I can't take down some of the pears because they are in the cul-de-sac.
Oh, it's not on your property.
I mean, some of them I guess I could claim, but I think some of them I don't think I could.
You don't want to test the city again. You've already gotten on their bad side once.
I don't know. When I lived in Maryland, no kidding. I'm not making this up. There was somebody who came through one day and counted all the trees. And I had some old stand trees, beautiful trees, big trees, and they came through and counted them and put ribbons on certain trees. Again, nobody asked me.
In your yard?
Come count in my yard. They came into my yard. They started counting my trees.
Whoa.
And apparently they would come through every year and count the trees. And if a tree was missing, they would take umbrage at that. They would, and they would contact you. You took down a tree. You're not supposed to touch a tree back there. And I said, well, there was a dead tree that I took down. And they said, well, we don't know. I said, look, it was, I thought, a hazard. I was going to fall on somebody else's house. And I wanted to not be responsible for that. Mm-hmm. And I had to prove that, luckily I had pictures.
Good grief.
What
were they going to do?
I don't know. I mean, but they took it very seriously. Don't touch the dadgum trees, Wilson, and even if it's in your own property.
I don't think anyone, well, maybe someone, but I don't think you're going to get very many people that would have that same reaction to you taking down any Bradford pears. Just with my thought.
I'm sure that's how they remember you right now. That guy with the trash
I know
trees.
People are now judging me all over the greater Middle Tennessee area. Wilson, how did you not know about Bradford pears? And honestly, I count myself as a man who, I read a lot. I try to stay informed. I have widely varied interests. How did I not know? that the trees on my property were considered trash trees. Now, I got some with pink blossoms, and I like them. I hope I don't find out they're also trash trees.
Yeah, they're probably not. But
what
I'm
do you
not
do?
an expert.
I mean, we're talking like 10 of them.
Ooh.
I can't get rid of 10 trees.
Ooh.
That's
trouble. I
Yeah.
don't know what you're going to do.
I think I'm going to have to learn to love trash trees. Open carry for long guns and 18-year-olds apparently is on the verge of coming to the state of Tennessee. There is a whole host of things that are wending their way through the state legislature. And two of them would expand open carry for, firearms. In other words, true constitutional carry. There are some out there, of course, this is written by one of the local TV stations, and people could walk down the streets with an AR-15 or an AK-47 as long as they weren't facing any restrictions like a felony on their record. Well, you know what? It is true constitutional carry, and everybody said the same thing when they said, okay, open carry, anybody can open carry as long as they're not a felon in the state of Tennessee. And everybody said, you're going to have people marching into the grocery store wearing a 6-iron on their hip, that kind of stuff. They're going to have people walking through brandishing weapons as they go about their daily business. I've not seen that. Have you? I have not seen that anywhere. But this is always the argument that gets made. You're going to have people who are going to walk down Main Street, walk down Broadway with an AK-47. I just don't think that's going to happen. Why is it that, when they start talking about, we hate this, we don't want people to do this, it's usually about something that most responsible gun owners would never do. So anyway, excuse me. Anyway, we got this going through right now. It would change the minimum age of open carry to 18, down to 18 from 21. And it would replace the word handgun when it comes to open carry and simply replace it with the word firearms. I think this is probably going to pass. I haven't seen anything more. Here we go. The potential new law have some top Republicans unsure. Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally of Oak Ridge said he spoke with Skermetti, the AG, ahead of some agreement, said at the time he didn't like it. This is about Skermetti's deal. Yeah. Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skermetti struck a deal with a far-right gun group in California late last month who pressed a lawsuit against Tennessee to allow 18-year-olds to openly carry firearms. Skermetti's deal blocks the Department of Safety and Homeland Security from preventing 18 to 20-year-olds from carrying handguns. The aforementioned potential new bill would change the law from handguns to firearms. And so there we have it. We'll continue to watch. We need to get an update. Let's just book John Harris on the show tomorrow, Chris, and get him in here and have it. He keeps track of this stuff like nobody's business. But there is stuff going on, and I want to make sure that we are getting accurate information about where it is at the very latest moment. Tennessee Senate passes a bill increasing those who are eligible for school ESA voucher programs aimed at students who would have fit the requirements when ESAs were originally passed in 2019, but decided to attend a private or charter school after that while the original ESA law was blocked in the court. Provides a window for those students. I like the idea of ESAs. If you are a parent in the state of Tennessee, and maybe, you are not happy with where your kid is. I mean, we hear that across the state of Tennessee, if they actually hold to what the law says, something like 60%, maybe 2/3 of third graders not going to pass this law or pass this test And if they don't pass the test under the law as it stands now, I don't think it's been changed yet, they would have to redo the third grade, or they would have to go to some remedial classes. And, that tells us that, and what's really weird about it is the parents are like shocked. Well, my kid's coming home with A's and A pluses and B's, and now all of it I'm told that my kid will not pass the test and likely would have to do the third grade over again. I'm telling you, education is not getting it done in the state of Tennessee in many, many, many places. Not all, but many, many, many places. And if you have a chance to get out of the public school system, I would say get out. And I'm all in favor of anything that makes ESA money available for anyone who wants to get out of a public school system. Also in the state legislature right now, let's talk about marijuana. A bill aimed at decriminalizing certain amounts of marijuana fails to pass. This bill would have lessened the offenses of possessing and selling certain amounts of marijuana. A Tennessee bill looking to reduce the offenses related to possessing certain amounts failed to pass. If it had passed, it would have decriminalized the possession of up to 1/2 ounce of marijuana, making it a civil violation punishable by $25 fine or community service, which is to say, no law at all. Okay, you got a 1/2 ounce, we'll just write you a ticket. But you know what? Nobody's going to write the tickets. I don't like this idea, and I'll just tell you why. If you say we're going to decriminalize small amounts of marijuana, then what you do is you increase the market for marijuana. But you have not laid out a place where people can go and buy it in a way that's safe and condoned by the government. You have basically said we're going to decriminalize something that sends more and more people back to the black market, back to the street dealers to buy their marijuana. So you are encouraging more of a criminal enterprise, which, by the way, can get very competitive. People stake out territories, etc. I've seen this happen. Again, I'll say it. I said it before. Either make it an offense or legalize it all the way. But half measures are a disaster. I don't think that the state of Tennessee, based on everything I've seen in the 5 years that I've been here, that I don't see anything that suggests that the state of Tennessee is any closer at all to moving on medical marijuana or on any kind of decriminalization of marijuana. There just doesn't seem to be the votes there for it. 51 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Let's talk about Sylvan Health. That's SYLVAN Health, a personalized nutrition service which is covered by insurance. Nutrition can improve the way you feel. It can help you lose weight and manage health conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. All of these things directly related to the foods we eat. This is where Sylvan Health comes in. Sylvan connects you with a registered dietitian to help put together a nutrition plan for you without forcing you to cut all the foods you love. Your dietitian will provide tools such as a meal plan, shopping list, restaurant guides. A few small tweaks to your diet can go a very long way. Appointments are done via video calls or over the phone, so there is not a need to travel. And here's the best part. The service is covered by insurance. That's right. 90% of patients have zero out-of-pocket costs. So schedule your appointment today. Call 833-279-5826 or visit sylvanhealth.com. That's SYLVAN health.com, and take that first step toward looking and feeling better, utilizing the power of great nutrition. talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. The number, it's got to start with a phone call. Make a call now. Set up an appointment, 615-246-5009. You know, I've been going there for some time now. Dr. Kevin Mitchell is my doctor. He'll be your doctor as well. I really have been doing this non-surgical spinal decompression it on the neck and on the back, and it has helped me so much. I've now completed my my treatment, and I will be coming back on a regular basis for maintenance stretch to sort of get on there and sort of, keep things where they should be. If you've wondered about this non-surgical spinal decompression, which, by the way, is a piece of cake and can really be helpful, so many people swear by it, half price right now for the entire month of March, half price. To start getting rid of your back pain, 50% off, no surgery, no injection, no addictive painkillers. You should also do everything you can to get by and meet Dr. Ashley. She brings a repertoire of knowledge ranging from nutrition, cold lasers, stress reduction. She has a clinical experience in holistic healing and a lot of good ideas. So between the two of them, you really need to go. $23 your first appointment, exam, consultation, and x-rays if needed. 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
$6:01, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 74 degrees in Nashville. Tracking severe storms right now in the mid-state. Right now, you're seeing a lot of the portions of those storms in Arkansas. That means trouble later for Middle Tennessee. Nashville area, you start to have a risk for severe weather around 7 p.m. More risks of flooding, though, in the southern portion of Tennessee. A flood watch just began in southern portions of Middle Tennessee. 1 to 3 inches of rain possible there as well, along with some hail. And that potential for flooding will transition to the northwest counties in Tennessee tomorrow night, when we're expecting another bout of severe weather. Weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. The so-called Havana syndrome that causes a variety of symptoms to people at U.S. embassies was not caused by a mysterious energy weapon, according to a new government assessment. Dave Packer.
Sudden severe headaches, difficulty concentrating, auditory disturbances, and memory loss. The symptoms eventually noted by hundreds of diplomats, intelligence officers, and other U.S. personnel serving abroad. There had been speculation it was caused by some sort of energy weapon from a foreign adversary, but that's not likely, according to a review by the U.S. intelligence community. Senator Mark Warner says regardless of the cause,
the most important thing is we're taking care of the workforce for any health care issues that have arisen.
In a statement, an attorney whose firm represents dozens of victims telling us that the assessment lacks transparency.
And the assessment says a single explanation was not found for most or all of the reports. Here in Tennessee, News 2 says the Nashville Fire Department is asking for community help to find an unidentified arsonist. This comes after the Hickory Lakes apartment were engulfed in flames about 3 months ago. Looking through the surviving camera footage, officials noticed a person walking through the lot towards the office before the fire. Then the footage caught him that person setting the fire and then leaving. A cash reward of $5,000 is now being offered if anyone has any information that'll lead to an arrest. And pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly will cut the price of its most commonly prescribed insulin products by 70% and expand a program that caps patients' costs at $35 a month, they said today. Karen Travers.
President Biden, in a statement, calls the Eli Lilly announcement a, quote, big deal, saying that for far too long, quote, American families have been crushed by drug costs many times higher than what people in other countries are charged for the same prescriptions, noting that insulin costs less than $10 to make, but that Americans sometimes pay more than $300 for it. The president calls that, quote, flat wrong. Mr. Biden takes some credit for Eli Lilly's move, saying he called on pharma companies to lower the price for the drug after signing the Inflation Reduction Act into law, which lowered the cost of insulin for seniors.
In sports, Memphis Grizzlies all-star point guard Ja Morant has been accused of punching a 17-year-old multiple times and flashing a gun at him. This allegedly happened last summer at Morant's house, where he, quote, punched him 12 to 13 times. The report says that Morant went inside his house and came back with a firearm in his waistband. Court documents show the 17-year-old said he accidentally hit Morant in the face with a basketball, leading to Morant asking a bystander, quote, should I do it to him, before using a closed fist to knock him on the ground. Morant's in his fourth season with the team, and the Grizzlies are in second place in the Western Conference right now. posting a 37-23 record. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Eight minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. I'm Brian Wilson. Let's kick off the fourth and final hour of this edition of The Drive on the first day of March. You know, in just 12 days, I think it is, we'll change over to daylight savings time.
Yeah, that's still happening.
Yep, I know. Okay, we got stuff to talk about. One of the things I like to do is I like to lean forward sometimes, and I'm going to tell you about a story that is just now breaking that you're probably going to hear a lot about in the next few days. It's a big battle that is developing, and it's a good battle to have, and I'm glad that this is happening. I don't think the outcome is going to be what we want, but nonetheless, it is happening, and people are pushing back against woke ideology. The Senate on Wednesday, this is hard to believe, passed a disapproval resolution formally killing a Biden administration Department of Labor rule that encourages private and retirement plan fiduciaries to consider ESG, environmental social governance. The ESG is what CRT was to education. I mean, it's like you gotta have a dance card to keep up with all these woke policies. I mean, we had critical race theory, and they're still, by the way, teaching that in different forms. They're just not calling it critical race theory in many places. You have diversity, equity, and inclusion. As I've spoken at length on this program, got no problem with diversity, got no problem with inclusion, have no problem with equality, but the E and DEI speaks to equity, and equity is something which says we should have the same outcome for everyone, regardless of how much effort has been put into it, and I can't go along with equity. And in the corporate world, there is this thing called environmental social governance, ESG, and big companies that make investments are now being urged to look at a company's environmental social governance ratings. How do they do on environmental issues? How do they do on social government? How many women are in the boardroom? And they got a whole, what are their policies with regard to indigenous people? They got a whole laundry list of things that give them an ESG score. And so the Biden administration wants the people who make investments for things like pensions to look at the score when making a determination who's going to manage their money. In other words, you can go to a firm that adheres to this idea of ESG and makes its investments in a socially, by the left's idea, acceptable way, or you can actually invest your money in companies that make money. I mean, what do you want if you're investing your pension dollars to keep pensions afloat? Do you want a company that, checks off all the right boxes with regard to, the policy of how many women sit on a particular board of directors? Or do you want a company that just goes out and makes money? I don't know. It's so anti-American to me that we're walking away from the concept of people, making decisions based on, the performance. In the idea of these big companies that are investing, we want to know, well, how did you do in investing in corporations that make money? Because my goal here in retirement is to invest it in a way that I make money for retirement. That's what I care about, and that's what everyone should care about. But now, the Biden administration, no, we must look at the environmental social governance. Well, so the Senate, unbelievably, the Democrat-controlled Senate, mainly because Joe Manchin came on board, sent this disapproval resolution. It passed by 50 to 46 in the Senate. It passed 216 to 204 in the House, and it goes to the president's desk. President Biden wants to sacrifice senior retirement savings to fund his political agenda. Senator Mike Braun of Indiana, who led the bill, told Fox News on Tuesday. Both the Senate and House have now spent powerful bipartisan rebukes of the Biden ESG agenda. I'm proud to stand up for American retirement savings to stop this harmful rule. Now that it's passed, it will head to the president's desk, and the White House has said the president will veto it. So there you go. Again, very difficult in this environment for one side to get through something. I mean, our side's going to have a difficult time to get anything through. On the rare occasion when you can get the Senate to take action and you get a vote that goes your way, the president still has the veto. But the reverse is also true, that many things the Democrats want right now are going absolutely nowhere because they're never going to be taken seriously in the House of Representatives. It's gridlock is what we've got. But this one got through, It should be a message to Biden, but no, his woke ideology, his woke agenda, more important, he cares more about making sure that every single box is checked in a woke way with corporations rather than allowing companies to just make a good decision based on investing on companies that have a history and a reputation for being profitable. Again, it's nuts. The economy is in not really great shape, and I've always thought that the American people are really, when it comes to things like, are we headed to a recession? Everybody says, look at this, look at that. Let's look at all of the numbers and we'll crunch them, and certain indices need to be watched very closely. I always thought this was a better way of knowing. Ask consumers how they feel. They will tell you, how they feel, and they're almost always right. I think the consumers get it right most of the time. Consumer confidence took a turn for the worse in February with a sharp rise in pessimism about economic conditions in the months ahead. The Conference Board said its index of consumer sentiment fell to 102.9 from a downwardly revised January reading of 106. What does that mean? The measure of consumers' assessment of current business and labor market conditions actually improved from 152 to 151. The measure of expectations for the year ahead fell sharply, plunging from a downwardly revised 76 to 69.7 in February. Readings below 80 on the expectations barometer, so it's at 69.7. Readings below 80 often signal a recession within the next year. Expectations have been below that level for 11 of the last 12 months. The consumer's view of current business conditions worsened in February, and that is something that means that people have got a sense of where the economy is heading. Maybe it's because of their own personal situations. Maybe it's because of what's going at the company where they work. But it looks like that's a pretty good sign we might be headed for I think a mild recession. The economy may not be in good shape. Record levels of unemployment, writes USA Today. The decrease reflects a large drop in confidence for household age 35 to 54, for household earning $35,000 or more. So there you have it. Did we mention to you? We really haven't mentioned to it, and we really should stop for a moment and celebrate the good fortune of the people of Chicago. They will have a new mayor. Lori Lightfoot did not pass muster last night in the election for Chicago mayor. We don't have a mayor yet. We don't know who's going to win because there's going to be a runoff, but she didn't make the runoff. The top two vote getters will go to a runoff. Lori Lightfoot came in third. And that means voters were very dissatisfied with several things there: rising crime, high-profile corporate departures, the city's slow economic recovery from the pandemic. I mean, it's a very dangerous place. Instead, 46-year-old Brandon Johnson, a member of the Cook County Board of Commissioners, will face Paul Vallis, a 69-year-old former head of Chicago Public Schools. Vallis got the most votes. Brandon Johnson, let's go Brandon, came in number 2. And so that will be the runoff. The Lightfoot, the first black female leader of America's third largest city, is missing out on a runoff after a tough campaign that saw her come in third. That hasn't happened, I think, in some 40 years, that a mayor of Chicago seeking re-election has not been re-elected. So it's a very rare thing. It tells you how incredibly incompetent she was. And, this is what I would say to people as they look around the country. If you come in with a bunch of crazy ideas and you decide, well, we're going to defund the police, we're not going to support the police, and you govern badly, at some point you run the risk of people throwing you out and the voters actually revolting. People say, we need term limits. No, what we need is people who actually study the matter and decide that they're going to cast their votes and get rid of people who are not getting the job done. So Vallis and Johnson advance to the runoff as Lightfoot concedes. That came last night with 98% of the vote in last night. It is now 20 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. You know, this happens as you get older, you grow into adulthood, and you look around, you say, oh, my parents are getting older now. Or maybe my grandparents, they're really getting old. And they're struggling for the things that used to be so simple for them, used to be so easy. Reminds us that we're approaching an age where you might need to give them some help. And when it reaches that point, you should reach out to Assisted Family Care. They can connect you with a responsible, compassionate, compatible helper to assist you with your loved one's daily needs. Now, if your loved one is a veteran or a spouse or a widow of a veteran, they could well qualify for a little-known benefit that will help cover these kinds of expenses. Assisted Family Care, they've got years of experience in helping those in Middle Tennessee who qualify get access to this benefit. Assisted Family Care will be there for you. Assisted Family Care can help. Visit assistedfamilycare.com or call this number, 615-833-9725. Yeah, and coming up after the news with Mac Maury, we're going to get into what happened on Capitol Hill today, where a couple of senators took Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of these United States, to task. And, I mean, it's pretty good stuff. You don't want to miss that. It's all coming up after the news. Looking at other stuff going on, this is the example that we need to really look at about what goes on with regard to people who come across this border. We're not doing a good job of checking these people out. We're letting people through. The pressures are enormous on our ICE folks, on our Border Patrol people, to check the paperwork and get people and point them in that direction, because if you don't, they stack up, and it gets to be a real problem. And they are just pushing people through far too quickly, not doing the kind of background checks they should do. We really don't know anything about the people who are coming into this country. And that's just the ones that we have contact with. There are a lot of people coming in. I mean, I forget the number, but it was an astonishing number of gotaways, people that came across. Hundreds of thousands of gotaways are coming across our border, and we don't know anything about them, except that we saw them on cameras. We saw them on sensors. We couldn't interdict them. They got into the country. We weren't able to do anything about them. We don't know anything about those people. But you would think that when the Border Patrol had people in their custody, before they gave them the paperwork and pointed them in the direction of America is that way, have a nice day, that they would do some background checks. Well, apparently they're falling through the cracks. House Judiciary Committee Republicans, according to the Bongino report, have launched a probe into the alleged murder-rape of a young autistic woman by the name by a member of the MS-13 gang, who was arrested at the U.S.-Mexico border as an unaccompanied minor. Jim Jordan, committee chair, asked Biden's Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra in letters sent late Monday to explain how a known gangbanger from El Salvador was released from custody by both departments and permitted to live in the United States. The Biden administration's open border policies have created vulnerabilities that criminal aliens and gang members exploit to the detriment of American citizens, said Jordan and Tom McClintock in a letter. Pursuant to the rules of the House, the Committee of the Judiciary is authorized to conduct oversight of federal immigration policy and procedures. The investigation was launched after pleas from the mother of the victim, Tammy Nobles, who wants answers to how her daughter, Kayla Hamilton, 20 years old, became a victim of the known criminal that managed to slip through the immigration system and was able to live in Aberdeen, Maryland, before the slaying of Hamilton in her own bedroom. Look, not everybody coming across is a bad person. I'll be the first to tell you that. But I would also tell you that we're not doing a very good job of screening people as they come across. We really don't know a lot about some of the folks that are coming into our country. And we certainly don't know anything about the people who are coming in as gotaways, because the system is so overwhelmed and chaotic. I think our Border Patrol is trying to do what they can, but I think they're just completely overwhelmed, and they've had their hands shackled by the Secretary of Homeland Security. And we should be investigating him, Alejandro Mayorkas, and we should be beginning the proceedings of impeachment. If you know anything about me, you know I'm not big on just, dropping impeachment, dropping the I word. But man, if there's if there's ever a guy who should be impeached, it's Alejandro Mayorkas. Whether or not you could get a conviction in the Senate, it seems unlikely, but he sure should go through the process. And what I hear is Matt Gaetz has apparently given interviews, said we don't have the votes. So that's a real shame. By the way, when you advertise to the world that you're going to be a sanctuary city, you better be careful and be ready for what that actually means. So when a bunch of people were shipped to New York City, which touted itself as a place, oh, our doors are open, oh, we'll take care of you, we are a sanctuary city. How would you like to be a taxpayer in New York and find out that your taxes, $100 million of your taxes, have gone to house illegals bust in from out of state. I mean, first of all, they're apparently they're putting them up in swank hotels, and you know that's all fine and good if you want to do that. But I mean, this is what it means to be a sanctuary city. If you offer sanctuary, you have to have a place to put them. You got to put your money where your mouth is. And if I were a taxpayer in New York, well, I would be upset about many things. But I would especially be upset that $100 million of my taxpayer dollars have gone to house illegals that have come from out of state. I think we keep shipping them to places like that and have them, when they start squealing loud enough, the Biden administration will finally pay attention. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing. You'll know how much it's going to cost before the care is actually delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month, and you get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year. Upgrade that a little bit, and you can actually get a package where they will make a couple of home visits a couple of times a year if needed. I mean, who does that? Grace Point Healthcare does that. They treat the whole family, newborns. They offer family plans as well. In conjunction with a high-deductible insurance plan, it could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same next day. No long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
One of the big words being thrown around in the investing world right now is this one. You may have heard it. Fiduciary. The idea that the investment advisor has to keep your interest first when they give advice. Now, it's being used in a marketing sense right now, and one of the things that I found fascinating, there was a study by the University of Southern California and Indiana University. They looked at investment advisor portfolios, and they found that they were making basic academic mistakes in the management of their own portfolios. And the question that they asked was, if they can't even keep their own best interest first, how are they going to keep your best interest first? That was the question. Now, one of the things that we do at Paul Winkler Inc. is every one of our offices, 10 offices, is run by a degreed planner, number one. But we go way beyond the call of duty when it comes to fiduciary and making sure that we're using academically sound principles in investing. Evidence-based. In other words, it's backed by a lot of this is backed by Nobel Prize winning research. To learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
It's 6:37 on SuperTalk 99.7. I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive. We just have about 22 minutes left to get you home safely, get you all tucked into the driveway, get you into the house so you can walk in and share the knowledge you have learned on this program with your family members. And they will stand in awe of you. They'll say, huzzah, huzzah. We are impressed by your greatness.
Yeah, hey, honey, did you know that Brian Wilson's got a yard full of trash trees?
That's right. That'll probably be the thing they talk about. Trash trees. Who knew? I didn't know.
They're making you suffer, too, now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think I may be allergic to Bradford pears.
Apparently, humans are highly allergic to the Bradford pear pollen. That's what someone said on the text line.
You're just a fount of information about the Bradford pear.
I don't know if that's true, but that's what someone suggested. Which would make sense, I guess.
That's why I'm struggling. I mean, you may notice from time to time I run out. I sort of get to the edge of running out of breath, and I feel like I'm having some kind of allergic reaction thing. So I'm living on, well, what are these? These are the best. VapoCool Severe cough drops.
All right.
It's that cool mentholatum, thing that keeps you going. We had a hearing today. It was a humdinger of a hearing on Capitol Hill, where you had the Attorney General of this United States. This is a guy who is, thank God we dodged a bullet and this guy didn't get on the Supreme Court. But he's been problematic over as the Attorney General, I think, not of the United States. I think he's the Attorney General for the Biden administration. See, the Attorney General is one rare deal that you serve on the president's cabinet, but you are not of the cabinet. You may be the person at the top of the heap at the Justice Department, but ideally, the Attorney General of the United States is a position that serves all the people of the United States, not just the wishes of the Biden administration. And Merrick Garland has turned out to be such a toad for this administration. I mean, just really, he's just a toad. And time after time after time, he has, sided with some kind of stupid policy, done stupid things. Here's one. Ted Cruz clashed with Merrick Garland over the DOJ response to the Supreme Court leak. You did nothing. Sit on your hands while protesters gathered at the homes of Supreme Court justices who voted in favor of overturning Roe, which ended nationwide access to abortion and returned the questions back to the states. When rioters descended on the home of 6 Supreme Court justices night after night, you did nothing. Your department did nothing, Cruz said today. The comment sparked a tense back and forth as the senator accused Garland of failing to fulfill his duties as Attorney General. Garland pushed back on those claims, knowing the Justice Department cannot prosecute protesters unless the U.S. Marshals issue an arrest. Well, isn't that just convenient, isn't it? I don't think it's absolutely a true legal point either. All right, let's get to this other thing. We'll hear from Cruz again here in just a moment. Josh Hawley questioned Merrick Garland about why is the FBI targeting Catholics. And there is a lot of evidence to suggest that indeed that is the case. Pretty testy exchange from Josh Hawley, Senator from Missouri, and Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States.
You use an unbelievable show of force with guns that I just note liberals usually decry. We're supposed to hate long guns and assault-style weapons. You're happy to deploy them against Catholics and innocent children. Happy to. And then you haul him into court and a jury acquits him in 1 hour. I just suggest to you that that is a disgraceful performance by your Justice Department and a disgraceful use of resources. I notice a pattern, though. The FBI field office in Richmond on the 23rd of January of this year issued a memorandum in which they advocated for, and I quote, the exploration of new avenues for tripwire and source development against traditionalist Catholics, it's their language, including those who favor the Latin Mass. Attorney General, are you cultivating sources and spies in Latin Mass parishes and other Catholic parishes around the country?
No, the Justice Department does not do that. It does not do investigations based on religion. I saw the document you have.
What did you do about it?
It's appalling. It's appalling. I'm in complete agreement with you. I understand that the FBI has withdrawn it and is now looking into how this could ever have happened.
How did it happen?
That's what they're looking into. But I'm totally in agreement with you. That document is appalling.
I'll tell you how it happened. This memorandum, which is supposed to be intelligent, cites extensively the Southern Poverty Law Center, which goes on to identify all of these different Catholics as being part of hate groups. Is this how the FBI, under your direction and leadership, is this how they do their intelligence work? They look at left-wing advocacy groups to target Catholics? Is this what's going on? I mean, clearly it is. How is this happening?
The FBI is not targeting Catholics, and as I've said, this is an inappropriate memorandum, and it doesn't reflect the methods that the FBI is supposed to be using. Should not be relying on any single organization without doing its own work.
Let me just ask you, as my time expires here, a very direct question. How many informants do you have in Catholic churches across America?
Listen carefully. He sort of hedges his answer here.
I don't know, and I don't believe we have any informants aimed at Catholic churches. We have a rule against investigations based on First Amendment activity, and Catholic churches are obviously First Amendment activity. But I don't know the specific answer to your question.
I don't know the specific answer. He just basically, talked for a moment and said, well, I don't believe we do. I don't specifically have an answer for you. He didn't have an answer, and Josh Ollie pointed that out.
You don't know the specifics of anything, it seems, but apparently on your watch, this Justice Department is targeting Catholics, targeting people of faith, specifically for their faith views. And Mr. Attorney General, I'll just say to you, it's a disgrace.
It is a disgrace, and he's right about this. There seems to be a double standard in the Justice Department. If you're at all conservative, then you're going to get investigated under one standard. But if you happen to meet, you have to be on the liberal side of the equation. Yeah, you don't have anything to worry about in this administration. And Ted Cruz talked about that. He talked about how you have many pregnancy crisis centers around the country that have been firebombed, but they haven't really seemed to have made any progress in trying to figure out who's responsible for that. And then he has a compare and contrast that really makes a very strong point. Here is Ted Cruz again questioning the Attorney General of the United States.
There have been attacks all over the country, and yet the Department of Justice has not brought these violent criminals to justice. You contrast that. If you're a violent criminal and you attack a crisis pregnancy center, that is not a priority in the Biden Department of Justice. Contrast that to Mark Houck, who's a pro-life activist. He's a sidewalk counselor. And he had an altercation with someone who allegedly interfered with his son's personal space and threatened his son, and he pushed him. Now, in an ordinary world, pushing someone would be maybe a simple misdemeanor assault, but not under the Biden Department of Justice. If you're a pro-life activist, what can you expect? Well, in this instance, according to Mr. Houck's wife, 24 agents clad in body armor and ballistic helmets and shields and a battering ram showed up at his house pointing rifles at his family. Why do you send 24 agents in body armor to arrest a sidewalk counselor who happens to be pro-life, but you don't devote resources to prosecute people who are violently firebombing crisis pregnancies?
It is a priority of the department to prosecute and investigate and find the people who are doing those firebombings. They are doing it at night and in secret. And we have found one group which we did prosecute.
You found one. How many have there been? How many attacks?
There have been a lot. And
he admits there's been a ton of them, and they've gotten one. The vaunted resources of the Federal Bureau of Investigation can only find one case out of the many firebombings that have occurred. I would suggest to you they don't want to look too closely. They don't want to know the answer to that question. They are, I think, playing on one side of one team and not on the other.
If you have any information specifically as to who those people are, we would be glad. We would be glad to have that.
Did you personally authorize 20 agents going to Mr. Houck's house? And he offered to turn himself in through counsel, but you didn't want that. The Department of Justice wanted to make a show of it. Did you personally authorize it? And do you want to apologize to Mrs. Houck and her 7 children for being terrorized?
The decisions about how to do that are made at the level of the FBI agents on scene.
Did you know about it?
I did not know about it until the way you're describing it, and my understanding is the FBI disagrees with that description.
Yeah, well, you can look at the pictures and you can judge for yourself. We don't have a level playing field with the FBI and the Department of Justice these days. It is simply another one of the agencies that Democrats have weaponized for political purposes, and the U.S. attorneys that have been splayed around the country by the Biden administration are taking full advantage and the reins to do things against conservatives around the country. And look, it's just anybody who looks at it, you just cannot come up with any other conclusion. That this is another institution which has been weaponized for political purposes. 49 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk. Let me tell you about Dr. Stephen Poss. If your sleeping partner giving you the sharp elbow in the middle of the night, have you wakened yourself with your own snoring? Have you been relegated to sleeping on the couch? Why don't you do something about it? Set up an appointment with Dr. Stephen Poss at the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic. 2 locations for your convenience, one in Brentwood, one in Murfreesboro. He can make a customized FDA-approved mouthpiece proven to be effective in treating mild to moderate cases of sleep apnea. Did you try the CPAP? I know. Why don't we try something different? Set up an appointment with Dr. Poss and find out if this approach will work for you like it worked for me. Here's what Julie said. My husband got his mouthpiece. He basically stopped snoring. Our bedroom is much quieter. I'm sleeping so much better. He's sleeping better. It's been a win-win situation for us. Start getting a good night's sleep. Feel more energized during the day. Contact the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic at your earliest convenience to set up an appointment with Dr. Poss. 615-850-8445. Learn more at drposs.com. Want to remind you, you can listen to us on the air. You can watch us on SuperTalk TV Live, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and find today's show prep at yourfarb.com. That's URFARB.com. Find the link to Your Farb at 997WTN.com. Tomorrow, we'll be back here at 3 o'clock for another exciting show. Be joined by John Harris from the Tennessee Firearm Association. Have a great night. Mark Levin is next here on Super Talk.